Beneath the dust of forgotten empires stand structures so advanced, so precise, that modern science still struggles to explain them. Temples aligned to distant stars, reservoirs that still hold water, walls that have endured every war, every storm, every attempt to erase them. Thousands of years have passed, yet these ancient creations continue to function, quietly defying time, logic, and our understanding of what early civilizations were capable of. From the deserts of Palestine to the jungles of Central America, from echoing stone chambers that bend sound to massive monoliths cut with machine-like perfection, each of these relics raises the same haunting question. How did they do it? Were these feats simply the result of brilliance and patience? Or is there something humanity has forgotten? Tonight, we step into the shadows of the world's most enduring mysteries, where engineering borders on the impossible, and history may not be what we think. So sit back, relax, and let's dive into the ancient structures that still function today, and the secrets they refuse to surrender. Under the warm Roman sun, in the heart of a city layered with centuries of triumph and tragedy, stands a structure that seems untouched by time. Its enormous dome rises above the narrow streets, serene and immovable, as if it were less a building and more a celestial fragment that simply descended and chose to remain. This is the Pantheon, one of the most extraordinary architectural achievements of the ancient world, and a monument that continues to function intact nearly 2,000 years after its reconstruction under Emperor Hadrian. People walk beneath its portico every day, oblivious to the fact that they are crossing a threshold into a space that has defied earthquakes, invasions, religious upheavals, and the slow erosion of history itself. The Pantheon's facade is impressive, but it is once inside that the true wonder unfolds. You step beneath the dome, and suddenly the world grows quiet. The circular chamber opens around you, vast, harmonious, impossibly balanced. Light pours through the oculus, a single round aperture at the very top, casting shifting beams that glide across the marble floor as the hours pass. There are no windows, no supporting steel or wooden beams. Just stone, brick, concrete, and perfect geometry. To this day, it remains the largest unreinforced concrete dome on Earth. How the Romans achieved this feat around 125 AD continues to puzzle engineers and historians. We know some of the methods. We know that Roman concrete, opus caementicum, was a mixture of lime, volcanic ash, and aggregate, which, unlike modern cement, grows stronger over time. We know that the dome becomes lighter toward the top, as the builders gradually shifted to pumice and other porous materials. And we know that the interior's perfect proportions, its height and diameter forming a single matching measure, help distribute weight evenly around the structure. These facts are real, measurable, and provable. Yet for all we know, deeper questions remain. Why have so few structures, even today, replicated the Pantheon's endurance? Why does a building created nearly 2 millennia ago still function so flawlessly, when many modern domes crack, lean, or collapse within a few decades? Did the Romans possess engineering knowledge that was later lost? Or have we simply failed to rediscover techniques that once seemed commonplace? Some scholars point to Hadrian's own fascination with mathematics, astronomy, and sacred geometry. The Pantheon is not merely a building, it is a cosmic symbol. Its interior is shaped like a sphere, a form long associated with perfection and the divine. At noon on certain days of the year, the beam from the oculus aligns precisely with specific points inside the structure, suggesting an intentional connection to the heavens. Was it meant to serve as a sundial, a celestial calendar, a symbolic gateway to the gods? Others propose more speculative ideas. A few fringe researchers have suggested that the Pantheon's design encodes advanced knowledge of energy, resonance, or Earth's natural electromagnetic fields. They point to the building's perfect symmetry, its use of specific materials, and the way sound behaves under the dome. Echoes softening, voices traveling upward, footsteps becoming gentle whispers. Is this simply the byproduct of elegant architecture, or the remnant of a deeper scientific understanding that has slipped through history's fingers? Still others find mystery in the building's name itself. Pantheon, a temple to all the gods. But no ancient source clearly explains which gods, or how rituals were conducted here. Was it ever truly a temple in the traditional sense? Or was it a ceremonial chamber for something far more obscure, perhaps tied to imperial cults, celestial observation, or secret rites lost to time? Roman history offers facts, but often with missing pieces. Fires destroyed earlier versions of the Pantheon, first under Agrippa, then again decades later. Hadrian rebuilt it, but left almost no explanation for his choices. He did not even inscribe his own name on the facade, instead preserving Agrippa's original dedication. Why? Modesty? Symbolism? Or a desire to conceal the building's true purpose beneath a familiar name? Over the centuries, the Pantheon survived because it was transformed into a Christian church. That act alone may have saved it from the fate of countless other ancient structures, stripped for marble or reduced to rubble. And yet, its survival also raises another question. Was it preserved for a reason? Is its endurance a stroke of luck, or part of a story humanity has not yet fully uncovered? Today, the Pantheon still stands, still functions, still fascinates. Rain falls through its open roof just as it always has, draining through a system cleverly hidden in the marble floor. Sunlight traces its slow orbit across the interior walls, marking time in silence. Tourists take photographs, unaware that the space around them may hold riddles we have not solved, and perhaps never will. Nearly 2,000 years later, the Pantheon remains what it has always been, a masterpiece, a mystery, and a reminder that the past is not as distant nor as simple as it seems. And as we look up into the oculus, into that perfect circle of sky, one question lingers. What knowledge did the ancients possess, and how much of it has been lost to the ages? From the silent grandeur of Rome's Pantheon, we travel northwest, crossing mountains and plains until we reach the windswept heart of the Iberian Peninsula. Here, in the old Castilian city of Segovia, another ancient marvel rises into view, one that still performs the task it was built for nearly 2 millennia ago. At first light, when the streets are quiet and the air is cool, the Roman Aqueduct of Segovia emerges from the mist like the fossilized spine of a colossal stone creature. Its rows of arches, tier upon tier, stride across the landscape with a confidence that has endured the collapse of empires, the shifting of kingdoms, and the erosion of time. Standing before it, you feel small. The aqueduct stretches for kilometers, built of unmortared granite blocks that fit together with astonishing precision. No cement, no metal reinforcements, just balance, gravity, and geometry. Constructed around the late 1st or early 2nd century AD, its mission was simple and vital: carry clean water from the distant mountains to the people of Segovia. And remarkably, the system still functions. Its channels, gradients, and reservoirs continue to guide water with quiet efficiency, an ancient machine, still humming in the modern age. Historians admire the engineering. They explain how Roman aqueducts used subtle slopes, sometimes dropping just a few centimeters per kilometer, to keep water flowing steadily. They describe the settling tanks, the distribution towers, and the careful selection of stone. All of this is real, documented, and impressive. But even with our understanding, questions linger. How did builders achieve such accuracy over such long distances without modern surveying equipment? How did they transport and lift massive granite blocks, fitting them so precisely that centuries of storms and earthquakes have not torn them apart? If the structure collapsed tomorrow, we might call it a miracle of the past, but it hasn't. Nearly 2,000 years later, it stands unbroken, as if protected by knowledge we have not fully reclaimed. Mainstream scholars credit the Romans' discipline, mathematics, and engineering skill, qualities they undeniably possessed. Yet, some researchers point out peculiarities that invite deeper curiosity. Segovia's aqueduct, like many Roman works, is aligned with an almost uncanny sense of proportion and stability. The arches taper gently as they rise, reducing weight while maintaining strength. The distribution basin, where mountain water settles before entering the city, still uses principles of filtration that resemble modern hydraulic concepts. How did ancient engineers understand fluid dynamics with such confidence? Was this brilliance simply the result of centuries of trial and error? Or did they inherit knowledge from earlier civilizations whose achievements have since been forgotten? Then there are the legends. Local folklore once claimed the aqueduct was not built by humans at all, but by a supernatural being. Some said a demon, others a guardian spirit, who constructed it in a single night. Such stories, of course, are myth. Yet myth often appears where memory fails, filling voids left by history's missing pages. Is it coincidence that so many ancient sites across the world carry similar legends of impossible speed, impossible precision, or impossible assistance? Some fringe theorists go further, suggesting that Roman engineers, traveling, conquering, and absorbing knowledge from distant cultures, may have encountered advanced techniques, whether in Egypt, Mesopotamia, or beyond. If secrets once spread across continents, could the aqueduct be a surviving trace of shared ancient science? They point to the durability of Roman concrete, the standardized measurements found across thousands of kilometers of empire, and the uncanny longevity of their hydraulics as hints of a greater, unified understanding, one we only partially grasp today. Conventional historians disagree, insisting that Roman aqueducts are simply the product of ingenuity and organization, but even they acknowledge how little we truly know of the minds behind these works. The names of the architects are lost. The original blueprints are gone. All that remains is the stone, silent, immovable, and still performing its duty. As modern engineers study the aqueduct, attempting to reverse engineer its success, they sometimes find themselves humbled. How could a civilization working with hand tools achieve results that remain difficult to replicate with modern machinery? Why do so many of their structures endure, while ours so often crumble in centuries or mere decades? In Segovia, the water still flows. It slips through channels shaped by forgotten hands, past stones that have not shifted in thousands of years, and into a world that barely notices the miracle above its streets. The aqueduct is not just a relic. It is a reminder, a functioning message from the ancient past. And as we step away from its shadow, one question follows. What other knowledge carved into the stones of antiquity still surrounds us, quietly working, quietly waiting for someone to ask the right questions? From the enduring arches of Segovia, our journey continues westward, following the silent legacy of Roman engineering as it stretches across Europe. The landscape shifts gradually, the rugged hills giving way to gentle valleys, quiet rivers, and the sun-drenched expanses of southern France. And there, rising above the Garden River like a monumental staircase of golden stone, stands one of the most breathtaking aqueducts the ancient world ever produced, the Pont du Gard. Bathed in sunlight, its honey-colored limestone glows against the deep blue Provençal sky, mirrored perfectly in the calm waters below. At dawn and dusk, the arches seem almost ethereal, weightless, as if suspended between earth and air, a timeless bridge not just of stone, but of human ingenuity itself. Approaching in silence, one cannot help but be awed by its sheer scale. Nearly 50 meters tall and composed of 3 tiers of elegant arches, the Pont du Gard is both graceful and imposing. Built in the 1st century AD, it carried water over 50 kilometers to the Roman city of Nemausus, modern-day Nîmes. Astonishingly, its channel still functions. After 2 millennia, the gradient remains true, the flow steady, as if the aqueduct defies the passage of time itself. Historians note that the aqueduct's slope drops a mere 34 centimeters per kilometer, a precision that continues to fascinate civil engineers. The stones, some weighing up to 6 tons, were fitted without mortar, relying solely on meticulous shaping and friction to lock them in place. Even now, after centuries of rain, wind, and erosion, the structure remains stable, a testament to Roman skill. These are the facts. And yet, in this case, facts only deepen the mystery. How did Roman builders achieve such perfection across vast distances without laser levels, modern mathematics, or satellite mapping? How were enormous blocks transported and positioned along cliffs and riverbeds raised nearly 160 feet into the air with flawless alignment? What combination of tools, knowledge, and organization made this possible, on a timeline that would challenge even today's most sophisticated construction teams? Mainstream scholars attribute this triumph to Roman discipline, ingenuity, and cumulative experience. Yet scattered clues, and a few puzzling anomalies, invite further speculation. Geologists studying the Pont du Gard have noted that its limestone blocks were quarried and shaped with remarkable consistency, as if cut to a shared template. In some sections, even a knife blade cannot slip between the stones. Was this simply the mark of master craftsmen, or evidence of advanced techniques that have been lost to history? Then there is the question of endurance. Why do some Roman aqueducts, like this one, survive in near-perfect condition, while others built with the same methods collapsed or decayed long ago? Was it luck, superior local materials, or perhaps hidden knowledge shared selectively? Could some projects have been granted expertise, techniques, or resources that others were denied? Speculative voices extend the mystery further. Some suggest the Romans may have inherited engineering principles from civilizations older than their own, cultures whose monumental works in Egypt or Mesopotamia hint at forgotten wisdom. Others point to the aqueduct's extraordinary harmony with its surroundings. Its placement, proportions, and geometry achieve a structural and aesthetic balance that seems almost too precise to be purely practical. Could symbolic or astronomical considerations have guided its design, blending utility with a deeper, perhaps ritualistic purpose? Even more intriguing are whispers from the fringes of history. Some argue that ancient builders may have understood natural frequencies, resonance, or subtle geological energies, concepts that sound strange today, yet appear repeatedly in myths, sacred architecture, and oral traditions across diverse cultures. While unproven, these ideas raise a profound question. Do we underestimate the scientific capacities of early civilizations simply because their knowledge was never recorded, or because their records did not survive the ravages of time? Today, the Pont du Gard rises proudly above the garden, serene and unaltered. Kayakers glide beneath its arches, unaware that the aqueduct once delivered more than 8 million gallons of water each day, sustaining a thriving Roman city. It remains a masterpiece not only of function, but of mystery, a silent chapter in the history of engineering that refuses to reveal all its secrets. As we leave its shadow behind, one final thought lingers. If the ancients could construct such marvels with tools we barely understand, what other knowledge might they have possessed? What secrets remain hidden in stones, ruins, and forgotten landscapes, waiting for those willing to seek them? The Pont du Gard is more than an aqueduct. It is a bridge across time, a testament to human ingenuity, and a quiet reminder that history often conceals more than it reveals. Standing beneath its arches, one feels the weight of centuries, the echoes of unseen hands shaping stone with precision, and the lingering question, what else might have been possible when human ambition was guided by skill, vision, and perhaps knowledge we are only beginning to glimpse? From the sun-washed arches of southern France, our journey turns east, following the ancient currents of empire toward a city where continents meet. Here, where Europe and Asia almost touch, the skyline of Istanbul rises through morning haze, minarets, domes, and the restless shimmer of the Bosporus below. At the city's heart stands a structure unlike any other on Earth, a monument that has served empire after empire, faith after faith, without ever surrendering its identity. This is Hagia Sophia, an edifice that has not merely survived time, but adapted to it, continuing to function as a living, breathing space of worship, memory, and mystery. Approach it at dawn, when the first light strikes its massive central dome. The stone glows softly, and for a moment, Hagia Sophia seems weightless, hovering above the city it has watched over for nearly 15 centuries. Its scale is staggering, a vaulted interior that once left foreign envoys speechless, a dome so vast that medieval travelers struggled to believe it had not been suspended from heaven by a chain. Even today, modern architects marvel at its balance and engineering. How did 6th century builders, without steel reinforcement, raise a dome more than 100 feet wide and keep it stable through more than 1,000 earthquakes? Historical records tell us that Emperor Justinian commissioned Hagia Sophia after riots destroyed its predecessor in AD 532. He summoned Anthemius of Tralles and Isidore of Miletus, mathematicians rather than traditional architects, to design a church that would surpass every holy structure on earth. When completed in less than 6 years, Justinian is said to have walked beneath the finished dome and proclaimed, "Solomon, I have outdone thee." And in many ways, he had. The dome floated on a ring of windows, filling the interior with shifting, almost supernatural light. The acoustics were, and still are, astonishing. A whisper can travel beneath the dome in a way even experts struggle to replicate. For centuries, the interior shimmered with gold mosaics that reflected torchlight like a star-filled sky, making the very walls seem alive with radiance. These achievements are real, documented, and celebrated. Yet, as with all great ancient structures, Hagia Sophia leaves unanswered questions. Why does its dome stand while so many others of similar scale have collapsed? Why does the building maintain extraordinary acoustics, seemingly without deliberate acoustic engineering? Why do certain sections resist humidity, erosion, and decay with a resilience unusual even for Byzantine masonry? Some historians argue the answers lie in experimentation. They believe the architects, armed with mathematics and observation, simply found the perfect combination of brick, mortar, and shape. Others point to meticulous maintenance by successive empires as the reason for its longevity. Yet other, more curious theories invite speculation. A number of researchers suggest Hagia Sophia's builders may have employed a special mortar mixture incorporating volcanic material, akin to the long-lasting concretes of ancient Rome. Others note that the building's geometry could align with celestial or geophysical principles, perhaps designed to reduce structural stress or enhance spiritual symbolism. Byzantine texts even record legends claiming divine intervention, that angels or sacred relics protect the dome from collapse. Fringe speculation goes further still. Some point to the building's unusual energy, compasses that behave unpredictably in certain chambers, stories of miraculous echoes, and mysterious lights witnessed by monks at night. Could these tales be exaggerations, misinterpretations, Or does Hagia Sophia, like other sacred structures worldwide, sit atop a concentrated earth energy line, what some traditions call a ley line? None of these claims can be proven, and yet their persistence contributes to the building's enduring fascination. Perhaps mystery itself is part of Hagia Sophia's power. It has served as cathedral, mosque, museum, and mosque again, standing through crusades, conquests, and political upheaval that reshaped continents. Empires have risen and fallen around it, yet Hagia Sophia remains, functional, intact, essential. Its dome still crowns Istanbul's skyline. Its floors still echo with footsteps. Its walls still hold secrets, layered beneath plaster, mosaics, and centuries of silence. Each detail, the curvature of a pillar, the subtle weight distribution of a pendentive, the shimmer of gold tesserae, speaks to knowledge and skill that feel both human and, at times, otherworldly. And as we step back into the bright air of the city outside, the question lingers. From the shimmering domes of Istanbul, our journey now guides us northwest, following the old roads of empire until we reach the gentle curve of the Mosul River. Here, in the ancient city of Trier, once a capital of the Western Roman world, a monumental structure rises with quiet authority. Massive, solemn, and almost austere in its simplicity, it stands apart from the ornamented cathedrals and palaces that surround it. This is the Aula Palatina, more widely known as the Basilica of Constantine, an architectural relic from the early 4th century that still functions, still shelters gatherings, and still echoes with voices nearly 1,700 years after its completion. At first glance, it does not boast the decorative splendor of Hagia Sophia or the graceful elegance of Rome's great temples. Instead, its power lies in its presence. The basilica is a vast rectangular hall, 67 meters long, its walls towering more than 30 meters high, built of brick so enduring that it has survived fire, war, and the long decay of the medieval centuries. Step inside and you are met with a soaring, uninterrupted space. There are no interior columns to hold the ceiling, no forest of marble pillars. Just a single immense chamber, warm with memory and shaped by an architectural confidence that seems almost modern in its clarity. Historians tell us that the basilica served as Constantine's throne room around AD 310, a place where the emperor projected authority not through ornament, but through scale. The structure used an advanced Roman heating system, the hypocaust, circulating warm air beneath the floors and through hollow walls. In winter, visitors to the imperial court would have felt heat rising from the bricks themselves, as though the building were alive, breathing warmth into its colossal frame. Even today, the remains of this system still function in principle and can be traced through the walls and substructure. The engineering is remarkable. The hall's wooden ceiling spans an enormous distance without collapsing. The brickwork remains stable despite the lack of steel reinforcement. And though the region has experienced centuries of conflict, Trier was ravaged by invasions, religious wars, and even modern bombings, the basilica endures. Why? Mainstream scholars point to Roman expertise in mathematics, proportion, and construction techniques. They stress the empire's mastery of brick production, concrete foundations, and heating systems. And yet, even they acknowledge unanswered questions. How did Roman builders maintain such perfect structural balance on soil prone to shifting? How did they design acoustics so refined that a single speaker at the apse could command an entire hall without amplification and without echo overwhelming the voice? There are other puzzles as well. The sheer size of the uninterrupted interior space remains unusual for its time, achieved centuries before similar feats became common in Europe. The hypocaust system, though found elsewhere, was implemented here on a scale and efficiency that still impress specialists in ancient engineering. And perhaps most curious of all is the basilica's extraordinary resilience. Buildings of similar age and materials across Europe have crumbled, yet this one stands, largely intact, with its original walls still rising to their full height. This durability has inspired more speculative theories. Some wonder whether Constantine's architects possessed construction formulas that later generations lost, knowledge of resonance, stress distribution, or material composition that existed before the collapse of Roman scientific culture. Others suggest that, like many imperial structures, the basilica may have incorporated symbolic geometry, ratios tied to cosmic or philosophical concepts, believed to lend harmony and stability. More fringe ideas look to energy or acoustics. The basilica's shape and proportions create a powerful auditory effect. Voices resonate, footsteps travel, and silence itself feels amplified. Was this accidental? Or did Roman builders understand sound in ways that blur the line between architecture and psychology? There are even local legends claiming that the basilica was protected by divine favor, preserved for reasons beyond human skill. Such stories, of course, cannot be proven, but they reveal something about how people perceive structures that seem to defy time. Today, the Basilica of Constantine is still in use, functioning as a church. Music fills its chamber, just as commands and proclamations once did in Constantine's presence. Heat still flows through portions of its ancient ventilation design. Light still pours through its high windows, illuminating walls that have seen emperors, bishops, soldiers, and modern citizens alike. As we step back into the open air of Trier, the basilica's facade looms behind us, silent, immense, and unyielding. And a question lingers in the quiet. Did the Romans simply build better than we remember? Or is there more to their knowledge, and to this structure, than history has preserved? Under the fading echo of the previous chapter, we leave behind distant sands and silent stones, traveling now to the heart of a city that has never truly slept. As daylight settles over Rome, golden sunlight brushes the weathered arches of a monument both haunting and magnificent. The Colosseum, an icon of ancient ambition, rises like a broken crown above the eternal city, a colossal arena that has endured nearly 2,000 years of storms, wars, earthquakes, and the relentless march of time. And yet, it still stands, it still functions, not as a battleground, but as a structure, a space, a symbol, continuing to gather crowds, direct movement, and shape the landscape around it. Few buildings on Earth have lived so long, and fewer still remain actively in use. Walk closer, and its vast circumference dominates the senses. Tier after tier of arches curves into the horizon, forming a labyrinth of shadow and light. The stones, once clad in polished marble, are scarred by centuries, as though holding memories of every roar, every scream, every spectacle that once shook its walls. Here, beneath these arches, more than 50,000 spectators once poured into the arena with astonishing speed. Roman engineers built an intricate system of stairways, corridors, and numbered entrances so advanced that modern stadiums still borrow from its design. Even now, crowds flow through its passages with an ease that defies its age. How did builders of the ancient world master architectural planning that rivals and, in some ways, surpasses our own? Inside, the arena floor is long gone, revealing a honeycomb of underground chambers, the hypogeum. In its time, this hidden world of cages, lifts, and winding corridors formed the beating heart of the Colosseum's machinery. With a system of wooden elevators operated by hundreds of slaves, animals and gladiators could appear suddenly from below, rising through trapdoors in dramatic displays designed to shock and thrill. Historians describe it as a feat of engineering unmatched in its era. But as we stand here today, surrounded by its silence, another question lingers. How did such a complex system emerge so suddenly, with no clear prototypes that predated it? The Romans themselves, of course, were master imitators and refiners. They absorbed knowledge from Etruscans, Greeks, and older civilizations that had risen and fallen long before. Some scholars argue that Rome's genius was not invention, but synthesis, a talent for collecting fragments of wisdom and forging them into something greater. Yet others wonder whether certain engineering ideas might have been inherited from sources now lost to history. Civilizations that vanished, leaving behind only whispers. Even the Colosseum's materials raise intrigue. The structure is bound together with a concrete mixture so resilient that it has outlasted many modern equivalents. Researchers have found that Roman concrete, especially that used in imperial architecture, contained volcanic ash that prevented cracking over time, an innovation seemingly ahead of its age. Was this merely a fortunate discovery? Or was it knowledge passed down from older builders whose identities are now forgotten? And beyond the accepted history, there are more speculative claims, ideas that hover on the edge of archaeology and imagination. Some alternative researchers suggest that the Colosseum was aligned with cosmological events, pointing to celestial markers hidden in its geometry. Others note that its elliptical design intensifies sound, almost like an enormous acoustic chamber. Was this intentional? Could the arena have served at some earlier stage a purpose other than blood sport, perhaps ceremonial, symbolic, or even spiritual? Mainstream scholars dismiss such theories as unlikely, yet they persist, fueled by the many unanswered questions still buried beneath its foundations. What is undeniable is that the Colosseum remains active, not in purpose, but in presence. It continues to shape Rome's streets, its tourism, its identity, even its economy. It influences architecture, city planning, and cultural memory. Nearly 2,000 years later, it still functions exactly as its builders intended, gathering crowds, commanding awe, and reminding humanity of the heights and depths of its ambition. But perhaps the greatest mystery is not how it was built, or why it survived, but what remains hidden. Beneath Rome lie layers of older civilizations, sealed by time. Tunnels run beneath the Colosseum, some mapped, others not. What knowledge, artifacts, or forgotten structures might still sleep in the soil below? As night falls and the arches glow under artificial light, the Colosseum transforms from monument to specter, an ancient machine still humming in the modern world. It invites a final question, one that echoes through its hollow corridors and fractured stones. Have we truly uncovered its full story? Or have we only scratched the surface of a much deeper past? From the heart of the Roman Empire, our journey now turns eastward, across deserts, mountains, and the endless sweep of the Eurasian plains, to a land where stone and earth stretch toward the horizon like a sleeping dragon. As dawn rises over northern China, mist curls around an ancient line of fortifications that ripple over ridges and valleys, fading into the distance as though vanishing into time itself. This is the Great Wall, one of humanity's most astonishing achievements, and yet one of its most enigmatic. It stands as both a symbol and a question, a structure that continues to function across millennia, still guiding winds, channeling travelers, and defining landscapes long after its builders have turned to dust. Up close, the wall feels alive. Its bricks are rough, uneven, bearing the fingerprints of those who shaped them centuries ago. The stones are bound with a mortar so resilient that even modern engineers have studied its composition with fascination. Legends tell of rice flour mixed with lime, creating an adhesive so strong that parts of the wall have withstood earthquakes, monsoons, and the slow erosion of time. It is not merely a wall. It is an organism of stone and soil, one that breathes through the seasons and bends with the contours of the earth. Stretching over 13,000 miles, the Great Wall is not a single, continuous structure, but a vast network. Fortresses, watchtowers, beacon stations, and trenches, woven together across dynasties. Construction began as early as the 7th century BC, long before the unification of China under Emperor Qin Shi Huang. Over the centuries, it grew, shifted, and expanded, absorbing older fortifications and adapting to new threats. Yet even today, the wall continues to serve its purpose. In places, it still regulates water flow, controls erosion, and shapes wind patterns across the northern plains. In others, it remains a boundary, both physical and psychological, marking the threshold between civilization and wilderness. But what was its true purpose? The conventional explanation is simple: defense. A mighty barrier against invading nomads from the north. Yet, when one looks closely, the logic becomes less certain. The wall's immense scale, its complex routes, and the way it often snakes through impassable terrain suggest it was not merely a military fortification. Some historians have proposed that it was also a communication system, a chain of watchtowers that used smoke and fire to send messages across vast distances, a kind of ancient telegraph linking the empire from one horizon to the next. Others see it as a symbol of unity and control, a visible manifestation of power meant to impress subjects as much as to repel enemies. Still, certain mysteries persist. There are sections of the wall that appear to serve no strategic purpose at all, isolated stretches built in desolate, uninhabited regions where no known threat existed. Some align with celestial markers, following patterns that correspond not to geography, but to the stars. Could the wall have held an astronomical or ritual significance, perhaps tied to ancient cosmology? Or are these alignments mere coincidence, the natural outcome of building along mountain ridges that happen to mirror the heavens above? More puzzling still are the stories buried in local legend. In remote villages, elders speak of lights seen moving along the wall at night, silent glows that drift from tower to tower, as though the ancient beacons were being relit by unseen hands. Travelers have reported strange acoustic effects too, whispers that carry for miles, footsteps echoing from unseen corridors. Scientists attribute these to the wall's unique structure and the way wind interacts with its stones. But to those who live nearby, such phenomena are not easily dismissed. They are reminders that the wall, even now, is not entirely silent. Archaeologists continue to uncover secrets beneath its shadow: hidden chambers, buried artifacts, even human remains sealed within its mortar. Some believe that workers were entombed alive during construction, though evidence for this remains scarce. Others point to the immense logistical sophistication required to build it, the coordination of resources, the transport of millions of tons of material across deserts and mountains, and the mathematical precision with which the wall follows the landscape. How could such feats have been achieved with the tools of the ancient world? What knowledge have we lost since? The Great Wall has survived empires, revolutions, and modern expansion. It still shapes weather patterns, influences migration routes, and even affects how satellites map the terrain. In a sense, it continues to function, an ancient machine of stone, still performing tasks its creators could never have imagined. And yet the wall remains a riddle. Was it a line of defense, a spiritual pathway, a map of the heavens, or something even deeper? A statement of mankind's eternal desire to mark the earth, to define the edge of the known world. As the last light fades over the mountains, the Great Wall seems to dissolve into the dusk, its silhouette merging with the horizon. It is both boundary and bridge, both monument and mystery. And one can't help but wonder, what other secrets might lie hidden within the endless stones of this ancient dragon that still winds its way through time? From the serpentine walls of China, our journey turns west, across mountains, plains, and seas, until we reach a sun-bleached hill rising above the restless streets of Athens. As daylight settles over the Acropolis, a golden glow washes across ancient marble columns, cracked by time yet unbroken in purpose. Here stands the Parthenon, not merely a ruin, but a structure that, even after 2,400 years, still shapes light, space, belief, and identity. A temple once devoted to Athena, it continues to function in unexpected ways, as a symbol, as an architectural clock, and, some argue, as a vessel of knowledge we still do not fully understand. From afar, the Parthenon appears harmoniously simple, a rectangular colonnade, 46 columns along its sides and front, supporting what remains of a majestic entablature. But up close, the illusion unravels into something far more intricate. There are no perfectly straight lines. The steps curve gently upward. The columns bulge almost imperceptibly at the center, and each one leans inward by a fraction. These refinements, known today as optical corrections, compensate for distortions caused by human vision and natural perspective. The result is a structure that looks symmetrical, balanced, and mathematically perfect to the naked eye, even though almost nothing on it is truly straight. How, with primitive tools, did ancient builders master visual science so advanced that modern architects still study and replicate it? Completed in 432 BC under the statesman Pericles and designed by the architects Iktinos and Kallicrates, the Parthenon embodied the ideals of Athens and its golden age. Yet even within its historical certainties, mysteries linger. The marble itself, pentelic marble quarried miles away, contains high concentrations of mica and quartz, minerals that reflect and refract sunlight. At sunrise and sunset, the temple seems to glow from within as though lit by an inner flame. Was this purely aesthetic? Or did the Athenians choose this stone for deeper symbolic or energetic reasons? Mainstream scholars attribute such choices to artistic vision, but more speculative theories suggest that the Parthenon functioned like a giant solar instrument, its orientation and dimensions aligned to track celestial events. Some point to the building's orientation facing the rising sun and to patterns in the frieze and metopes that may echo lunar or solar cycles. Did the Athenians embed astronomical knowledge into the temple's very geometry? Or are we projecting meaning backward, searching for cosmic secrets that were never there? Inside, the Parthenon once housed a colossal statue of Athena Parthenos, crafted by the sculptor Phidias. Clad in gold and ivory, the goddess stood nearly 40 feet tall, her figure reflected in a shallow pool of water at her feet. The basin helped regulate the temple's humidity, preserving the ivory through the scorching Mediterranean summers. It is a detail that reveals a culture not only of artistic genius, but of practical engineering. Even today, the structure still works. Its ventilation, acoustic properties, and water-regulating design are effective despite the absence of roofs and walls. But what else did the Athenians know about managing space, climate, and light that we have overlooked? Then there are the deeper puzzles. Beneath the Acropolis lie older foundations, predating the Parthenon by centuries, possibly linked to earlier cults or forgotten rituals. Was the site chosen merely for defensive advantage and visibility? Or was it already a sacred zone, long before the age of Athens? Some fringe theories claim the temple encodes mathematical constants, including the golden ratio, implying lost knowledge preserved through architecture. Others go further, imagining the Parthenon as part of a broader ancient network of power sites spanning the Mediterranean. There is no definitive evidence for such claims, but neither can they be entirely dismissed without further discovery. The Parthenon has lived many lives: temple, treasury, church, mosque, gunpowder depot, and now a monument visited by millions. And yet, despite all it has suffered, earthquakes, explosions, looting, and time, it still functions. Not as a temple of Athena, but as something more enduring, a beacon of proportion, mystery, and human aspiration. As the sun sinks behind the hills of Attica and the marble fades from gold to pale silver, the Parthenon becomes quiet again, aloof, inscrutable, still keeping its secrets. Was it meant only as a tribute to a city and its goddess? Or was it also a message carved in stone, waiting across millennia for those who might one day decode it? And perhaps the greater question remains. What knowledge did the ancients build into the Parthenon? Knowledge that we can see but still do not fully understand? From the marble heights of the Parthenon, our journey now drifts north and west, across mountains, seas, and centuries, until the warm glow of the Mediterranean gives way to a land of mist, rolling hills, and silent springs. Here, in the heart of Somerset, lies a structure unlike any other on Earth, a complex of ancient pools, chambers, pipes, and sacred spaces that still breathes with living water. This is Bath, the Roman baths of Britain, where engineering, geology, and ritual converged in a place that remains functional nearly 2,000 years after it was built. At dawn, a pale haze hangs over the great bath. Steam rises from emerald green water, drifting slowly into the cool morning air. The surface ripples, shimmering beneath columns and statues that tower above, reminders of an age when Rome ruled these distant isles. Yet what we see today is only the surface of a mystery that stretches deep underground. The site sits atop a rare geological wonder, a natural hot spring that pours out over 1 million liters of mineral-rich water each day, heated by forces still active beneath the Earth's crust. For countless generations, long before Rome ever arrived, the spring was seen as sacred. The native Celts dedicated it to the goddess Sulis, believing its waters could heal, purify, and even curse those who wronged them. When the Roman Empire expanded into Britain, the invaders did something unexpected. Instead of replacing the local deity, they merged her with their own goddess Minerva. Thus, Sulis Minerva was born, and around her sanctuary the Romans began constructing an engineering marvel. By the 1st century AD, they had enclosed the spring, channeling its waters through a complex network of lead pipes, reservoirs, and overflow systems. They built heated rooms, plunge pools, saunas, and intricate drainage designed to last. And somehow, remarkably, it did. The water still flows today through many of the same channels, at the same temperature, following the pathways laid out by Roman architects nearly 2 millennia ago. Mainstream historians credit Roman craftsmanship, mastery of surveying, and an understanding of hydraulics far ahead of their time. But questions linger. How did Roman engineers, working with primitive tools, calculate gradients with such precision that water flowed seamlessly through the entire complex without modern pumps or pressure controls? How did they design chambers that could remain structurally sound for thousands of years in constant exposure to mineral-rich, corrosive water? And what led them to integrate religious ritual, engineering, and geothermal science into a single harmonious blueprint? More enigmatic still is the water itself. Scientists today can explain its heat, rainwater percolating deep into limestone, warmed by geothermal energy before returning to the surface. Yet the spring's consistency, temperature stability, and mineral composition have led some to wonder if the Romans understood more than they revealed. Fringe theories suggest they may have tapped into an ancient network of knowledge shared across distant cultures. From the bathhouses of Anatolia to the ritual pools of Palestine and beyond. Could the Romans have inherited geothermal wisdom from earlier civilizations? Or did they discover it independently, through observation and experimentation we have long forgotten? The deeper one looks, the more the site provokes curiosity. Beneath the visible baths lies an underworld of passages, blocked rooms, and sealed chambers yet to be fully explored. Archaeologists know there are still undiscovered elements of the complex: collapsed tunnels, lost shrines, perhaps even hidden artifacts thrown into the waters by worshippers hoping to reach Sulis Minerva herself. Thousands of offerings have already been recovered: coins, jewelry, and tablets inscribed with pleas for justice or protection. What else lies in the mud beneath those silent waters, waiting to tell its story? Even now, the Roman baths continue to function, not merely as a monument, but as a living system. The flow has never stopped. The spring never ran dry. The temperature never faltered. The water still rises, still steams, still fills the ancient pools exactly as it did in the age of emperors and legions. It is as though the earth itself continues to feed a temple long after its builders and worshippers have vanished, preserving a connection between the present and a distant past. And so, the question lingers in the mist. Was this extraordinary site simply a triumph of Roman engineering and natural geology? Or does the spring conceal a deeper mystery, one that continues to flow beneath the surface, waiting for someone patient and curious enough to understand what the ancients truly knew? The Roman baths of Bath are more than stone, water, and columns. They are a living testament to human ingenuity, spiritual devotion, and the enduring power of nature. To step onto the terrace above the Great Bath, to watch the rising steam curl toward the morning sky, is to feel the pulse of centuries beneath your feet. It is to sense that some knowledge, once held by our ancestors, may yet remain beyond our reach, hidden in the depths of water, stone, and silence, waiting to reveal itself, only to those who know how to look. From the warm, mineral waters of Bath, our path now turns east, far across continents, mountain ranges, and time itself, toward a land where the air thins, the winds fall silent, and the horizon seems impossibly close to the sky. Here, on the Tibetan plateau, rising more than 3,600 meters above sea level, stands a structure unlike any other on Earth. Draped in fluttering prayer flags and veiled in mountain mist, the Jokhang temple emerges from the heart of Lhasa like a timeless beacon, its golden roofs gleaming beneath the piercing blue of the Himalayan sky. It is a place of devotion, architecture, memory, and enduring mystery. Each day, pilgrims circle the temple, spinning prayer wheels and prostrating themselves along ancient stone paths polished smooth by centuries of footsteps. Incense drifts from open doorways, mingling with the thin, cold air, while butter lamps flicker in the dim interior, casting halos of light on walls painted before the birth of modern nations. Though more than 1,300 years old, the Jokhang temple still functions as it always has, a living center of worship, ritual, astronomy, and cultural identity. Tradition holds that the temple was built in the 7th century AD under Songtsen Gampo, the Tibetan king who helped unify the region. Historical accounts claim he constructed the temple to house a sacred statue of the Buddha, said to be one of the most revered images in the Buddhist world. Yet, even within this established narrative, unanswered questions remain. Why was this particular location chosen? How did the builders of the early Tibetan kingdom construct a structure so enduring in a region defined by harsh climate, earthquakes, and political upheaval? Mainstream historians credit a combination of innovation and resilience. The Jokhang's layered foundations, interlocked timber frames, and earthquake-resistant techniques are cited as proof of early Tibetan engineering genius. The temple's layout, aligned with cardinal directions, reflects a sophisticated understanding of geomancy. And yet, some aspects defy easy explanation. How did early builders design a structure that has remained largely intact for more than a millennium, despite constant geological stress? Why does the temple's inner sanctum maintain stable humidity levels ideal for preserving delicate murals and sculptures, even without modern climate control? Here, the narrative begins to deepen. Certain Tibetan scholars argue that the Jokhang's orientation and proportions mirror cosmic diagrams found in Buddhist mandalas, suggesting the temple itself was conceived not merely as a building, but as a three-dimensional map of the universe. Others point to the site's placement at the center of Lhasa's ancient energy grid, connected through a network of stupas and monasteries that extend outward like spokes. Could it be that the temple's endurance is partly geological and partly metaphysical, anchored to a sacred geography older than recorded Tibetan history? More speculative theories reach even further. Some suggest the temple sits atop an earlier pre-Buddhist shrine dedicated to local deities or sky spirits. Archaeological hints, stonework beneath the oldest chapels, unexplained voids beneath the courtyard, raise the possibility that the Jokhang was not the first sacred structure on this spot. Could the temple be only the latest chapter in a much older spiritual lineage, stretching back to a time before written records? The most puzzling element, however, is the temple's continued influence. Though empires have risen and fallen, though centuries of conflict, earthquakes, and cultural transformation have swept across Tibet, the Jokhang remains active, not as a relic, but as a fully functioning spiritual machine. Pilgrimage routes still converge upon it. Rituals once performed under candlelight are reenacted in the same chambers, resonating through time, and the sacred statue at its core, believed by some to hold blessings capable of altering fortune and fate, still draws thousands who wait patiently for a glimpse. Why has this place endured when so many ancient structures have faded into obscurity? Is it devotion alone? Architecture? Or is there something else? Something the ancients sensed about this ground, this alignment, this design, that continues to give the temple its power. From the high, wind-carved plateaus of Tibet, we now descend south into a world of dense forests, river plains, and fertile deltas, where monsoons reshape the land and water has always been both a blessing and a threat. In the ancient region of Tamil Nadu, along the broad, restless flow of the Kaveri River, stands an engineering masterpiece so old that its origins stretch beyond the lifetime of most ancient empires. Yet it still works today, guiding and taming the waters that nourish millions. This is the Kallanai Dam, also known as the Grand Aqueduct, widely considered one of the oldest water regulation structures still in operation anywhere on Earth. At first glance, the Kallanai appears almost modest. There are no towering walls or gleaming facades, no grand inscriptions left behind to boast of its builders. Instead, it is made of massive, interlocked stones laid across the river's width, simple, sturdy, and harmonious with the landscape. But beneath that simplicity lies a design of remarkable sophistication. Built in the 2nd century AD by the Chola king Karakalan, the dam gently redirects the Kaveri's waters into canals and irrigation networks that still sustain agriculture across the region to this day. Even now, standing on its banks, one can hear the steady rush of water as it breaks against the ancient stones. The sound is rhythmic, almost like breathing, an endless pulse that has continued for nearly 2,000 years. How many structures from antiquity can claim such a legacy? How many creations of human hands continue to serve their original purpose day after day, century after century? Mainstream historians attribute the Kallanai's longevity to practical genius. The Cholas, masters of statecraft, trade, and maritime power, also excelled in hydraulic engineering. By constructing a dam that guided rather than blocked the river, they avoided many of the structural stresses that destroy modern dams over time. The Kallanai does not trap the water. It tames it. Its low, sloping form allows floods to pass without catastrophic pressure, while its carefully placed stones change the river's flow with minimal resistance. It is an elegant balance of force and flexibility. And yet, questions arise. How did engineers of the 2nd century calculate the precise angles needed to divert the river without modern measurements, surveying tools, or hydrological models? How did they understand soil behavior, seasonal patterns, and long-term flow dynamics well enough to build a system that would endure thousands of monsoons, countless floods, and the constant grinding force of water and sediment? More mysterious still is the dam's connection to an older, deeper tradition. Tamil sources and oral histories speak of irrigation systems that predate even the Cholas, networks of canals and waterworks stretching back to the Sangam era and possibly beyond. Some scholars believe the Kallanai was not the beginning of hydraulic engineering in southern India, but the culmination of knowledge passed down through generations of earlier builders. If true, then Karakoram's dam may represent only the visible surface of a far older legacy, one whose origins have been lost to time. From here, speculation branches outward. Fringe theories propose that ancient South Indian builders possessed mathematical and observational tools that have since disappeared from the historical record. Others note similarities between the water systems of India, Sri Lanka, and Southeast Asia, suggesting the existence of a shared network of hydraulic knowledge across the Indian Ocean world. Could the Kallanai be part of a much broader, interconnected tradition of ancient engineering, one that rivaled or even exceeded those of Rome, Persia, or China in its understanding of water? Archaeological surveys have revealed older riverbeds, abandoned canals, and submerged stoneworks near the Kaveri, clues, perhaps, of phases of construction long before the Chola era. Still, so much remains unexcavated, buried beneath soil, farms, and villages. What might lie beneath the surface, and what would it reveal about the people who first learned to command the Kaveri? For now, the dam continues its quiet work. Farmers rely on it. Fields bloom because of it. Whole communities live by the rhythm of water regulated by ancient stone. While other monuments stand as silent ruins, the Kallanai lives, functional, relevant, and essential. As evening falls over the river and the last light glitters on the flowing water, the dam looks almost unchanged from how it must have appeared centuries ago. There is a sense of continuity here, a thread connecting past and present through the simple, enduring act of guiding water. And so we are left to wonder. From the high, wind-carved plateaus of Tibet, we now descend south into a world of dense forests, river plains, and fertile deltas, where monsoons reshape the land and water has always been both a blessing and a threat. In the ancient region of Tamil Nadu, along the broad, restless flow of the Kaveri River, stands an engineering masterpiece so old that its origins stretch beyond the lifetime of most ancient empires. Yet it still works today, guiding and taming the waters that nourish millions. This is the Kallanai Dam, also known as the Grand Aqueduct, widely considered one of the oldest water regulation structures still in operation anywhere on Earth. At first glance, the Kallanai appears almost modest. There are no towering walls or gleaming facades, no grand inscriptions left behind to boast of its builders. Instead, it is made of massive, interlocked stones laid across the river's width, simple, sturdy, and harmonious with the landscape. But beneath that simplicity lies a design of remarkable sophistication. Built in the 2nd century AD by the Chola king Karakoram, the dam gently redirects the Kaveri's waters into canals and irrigation networks that still sustain agriculture across the region to this day. Even now, standing on its banks, one can hear the steady rush of water as it breaks against the ancient stones. The sound is rhythmic, almost like breathing, an endless pulse that has continued for nearly 2,000 years. How many structures from antiquity can claim such a legacy? How many creations of human hands continue to serve their original purpose, day after day, century after century? Mainstream historians attribute the Kallanai's longevity to practical genius. The Cholas, masters of statecraft, trade, and maritime power, also excelled in hydraulic engineering. By constructing a dam that guided rather than blocked the river, they avoided many of the structural stresses that destroy modern dams over time. The Kallanai does not trap the water, it tames it. Its low, sloping form allows floods to pass without catastrophic pressure, while its carefully placed stones change the river's flow with minimal resistance. It is an elegant balance of force and flexibility. And yet, questions arise. How did engineers of the 2nd century calculate the precise angles needed to divert the river without modern measurements, surveying tools, or hydrological models? How did they understand soil behavior, seasonal patterns, and long-term flow dynamics well enough to build a system that would endure thousands of monsoons, countless floods, and the constant grinding force of water and sediment? More mysterious still is the dam's connection to an older, deeper tradition. Tamil sources and oral histories speak of irrigation systems that predate even the Cholas, networks of canals and waterworks stretching back to the Sangam era and possibly beyond. Some scholars believe the Kallanai was not the beginning of hydraulic engineering in southern India, but the culmination of knowledge passed down through generations of earlier builders. If true, then Karakoram's dam may represent only the visible surface of a far older legacy, one whose origins have been lost to time. From here, speculation branches outward. Fringe theories propose that ancient South Indian builders possessed mathematical and observational tools that have since disappeared from the historical record. Others note similarities between the water systems of India, Sri Lanka, and Southeast Asia, suggesting the existence of a shared network of hydraulic knowledge across the Indian Ocean world. Could the Kallanai be part of a much broader, interconnected tradition of ancient engineering, one that rivaled or even exceeded those of Rome, Persia, or China in its understanding of water? Archaeological surveys have revealed older riverbeds, abandoned canals, and submerged stoneworks near the Kaveri, clues, perhaps, of phases of construction long before the Chola era. Still, so much remains unexcavated, buried beneath soil, farms, and villages. What might lie beneath the surface? And what would it reveal about the people who first learned to command the Kaveri? For now, the dam continues its quiet work. Farmers rely on it. Fields bloom because of it. Whole communities live by the rhythm of water regulated by ancient stone. While other monuments stand as silent ruins, the Kallanai lives, functional, relevant, and essential. As evening falls over the river and the last light glitters on the flowing water, the dam looks almost unchanged from how it must have appeared centuries ago. There is a sense of continuity here, a thread connecting past and present through the simple, enduring act of guiding water. And so we are left to wonder, did the Cholas build the Kallanai using nothing more than observation and intuition? Or does this timeless structure hint at a deeper reservoir of ancient knowledge still waiting to be uncovered beneath the river's eternal flow? As the echoes of ancient engineering fade from our previous chapter, we journey now to the northeastern Peloponnese, where hills shaped by wind and time cradle one of the most extraordinary achievements of the classical world. Here, surrounded by groves of olive trees and the earthy scent of wild thyme, lies the theater of Epidaurus, an architectural masterpiece so precise, so impossibly elegant, that it continues to function today much as it did when the first spectators gathered more than 2,000 years ago. At first glance, it appears serene. Semicircular rows of pale limestone, 55 tiers in all, rise from the slope of Mount Canorsian, embracing a circular orchestra floor below. The structure feels perfectly balanced, neither imposing nor fragile, as though it simply grew from the earth. But step into its heart, and the experience changes. Even in silence, the theater seems alive, its geometry humming with purpose. Built in the 4th century BC and attributed to the architect Polykleitos the Younger, the theater could hold an audience of approximately 14,000. Its purpose was deeply intertwined with the nearby sanctuary of Asclepios, a major healing center in the ancient world. Here, drama was not merely entertainment, it was therapy. Tragedies and comedies were believed to cleanse the soul, restoring emotional balance and spiritual health. Was this theater, then, designed not only for art, but for transformation? The first clue lies in its acoustics, which defy expectation even today. Stand at the very top row, more than 200 feet from the stage, and a whisper from the orchestra can be heard with astonishing clarity. Tour guides delight in demonstrating this. A coin dropped on the stone floor, the tearing of a piece of paper, a soft human voice carried effortlessly on the air. How does a structure this ancient, built without modern mathematics or electronics, achieve such perfection? Mainstream scholars offer several compelling explanations. The limestone seats, for example, may act as a natural acoustic filter, dampening low-frequency background noise while reflecting and amplifying higher frequencies that carry the human voice. The precise curvature of the rows, combined with the circular orchestra, may focus sound like a lens, directing it upward rather than letting it dissipate. Even the location, nestled in a natural hollow, might serve as a giant resonating chamber, and yet, questions remain. Experiments show that the acoustics work best when the theater is full, as if the very presence of human bodies is part of the design. Why would ancient architects anticipate audience absorption so accurately? How did they achieve such consistency before the development of recorded sound, scientific acoustics, or complex modeling? Was it trial and error, or something more? This is where speculation begins to surface. Some researchers suggest that Greek architects possessed a deeper knowledge of harmonic ratios, geometry, and vibration than we typically acknowledge. They point to the Greek obsession with cosmic order, the music of the spheres, sacred proportions, and the belief that harmony governed both art and the universe. Could the theater's geometry have been a physical expression of these principles, intentionally tuned like a musical instrument? Others go further still. A few fringe theorists claim that structures like Epidaurus were built at energetic power points on the Earth, chosen because they amplified sound, sensation, or even consciousness. They note that visitors often describe an unusual calm at the site, and they question whether the theater's healing role might have extended beyond psychology and into something we no longer understand. These ideas remain unproven and controversial, yet they persist, if only because the theater continues to outperform modern venues designed with computers. And then there is the theater's endurance. Earthquakes, wars, erosion, and time have tested it, yet the structure stands, still capable of hosting performances just as it did in the days of classical Greece. In an era when stadiums and arenas are renovated, replaced, or rendered obsolete within decades, what does it say that this stone amphitheater has survived more than 2 millennia and still works flawlessly? Perhaps the greatest mystery of Epidaurus is not how it was built, but what it represents. A moment when architecture, art, science, and spirituality converged into a single purpose. A place where human design and the natural world seem to cooperate rather than compete. As the sun dips behind Mount Constantine and shadows settle across the rows of limestone, the theater grows quiet again. But its silence feels temporary, as though the stones are waiting for the next voice, the next story, the next gathering of souls. What knowledge did the ancients leave encoded here? Knowledge we have yet to rediscover. And if we listened closely enough, what might these perfect echoes still be trying to tell us? From the precision of Greek stone and the perfection of ancient sound, our journey now descends into a harsher landscape, one shaped not by gentle hills, but by desert wind and the slow, eternal breathing of the Nile. Here, in the ancient city of Thebes, stands a monumental complex unlike anything on earth. A forest of pillars, a maze of sanctuaries, and a timeline of kings carved in stone. This is Karnak. At sunrise, the first light spills over the eastern horizon and pours through the hypostyle hall, illuminating 134 massive columns that tower like a petrified grove. Their surfaces, inscribed with prayers, laws, victories, and offerings, glow gold in the morning heat. The silence here is heavy, as if the very air remembers. To walk between these pillars is to move through a stone archive, where each carving whispers of an age long gone. Karnak was not built in a decade, or even a century. Its construction spanned more than 2,000 years, beginning around 2000 BC and continuing through the reigns of dozens of pharaohs. Each ruler added, expanded, or modified, seeking favor from the gods, especially Amun, patron of empire and hidden things. Even today, the complex remains the largest religious structure ever built by human hands. But despite its age, Karnak still functions. Not as it once did. No priests chant through its halls, no pharaoh makes offerings at dawn, but as a temple of alignment, architecture, and enduring mystery. One of its most extraordinary features reveals itself only once a year. On specific dates, the rising sun aligns perfectly with the central axis of the temple, sending a beam of light deep into its innermost sanctuaries. Was this merely aesthetics, or astronomical engineering of the highest order? Mainstream scholars argue that Egyptian priests were skilled sky watchers, and that Karnak's axis reflects their understanding of the heavens. Yet, the precision raises questions. How did ancient architects design such alignments on a project that unfolded over 2 millennia, longer than entire civilizations have existed? How did successive generations maintain the same cosmic blueprint without altering its intention? There are other puzzles as well. Some blocks in the complex weigh an estimated 50 to 100 tons. The largest obelisks, carved from single pieces of granite and transported from quarries hundreds of miles away, were erected with a perfection that still challenges modern engineers. How were such feats accomplished? Ramps, sledges, and manpower remain the accepted explanations, but no definitive blueprint or method has ever been found. Beneath the surface lies yet another layer of intrigue. Ground-penetrating surveys suggest that Karnak continues underground, with chambers, tunnels, and foundations that may stretch far beyond what is currently excavated. Some Egyptologists believe there are still unopened rooms, untouched texts, and sealed passageways waiting in the dark. If so, what might they contain? Administrative records, lost rituals, or knowledge deliberately hidden by priests who feared the march of time? Then there are the fringe theories, ideas dismissed by academia but kept alive by curiosity. Some suggest that Karnak, like other ancient sites, sits at a node of powerful earth energies, chosen not just for proximity to the Nile but for unseen forces flowing through the land. Others propose that its columns and courtyards were designed to influence consciousness, that ancient rituals may have used sound, light, and incense to alter perception or induce spiritual states. More imaginative theorists even point to eroded surfaces on certain stones, claiming that they show evidence of far greater age than dynastic Egypt, hinting at a forgotten civilization. None of these ideas have been proven, yet the questions persist, largely because Karnak refuses to give simple answers. Even the inscriptions, detailed as they are, tell history selectively, choosing what to reveal and what to obscure. The Egyptians called their temple Ipet Isut, the most sacred of places. Was that title ceremonial or descriptive? As the sun climbs higher and tourists slowly replace silence with footsteps and camera shutters, Karnak loses none of its gravity. The columns still stand. The obelisks still catch the light. The axis of the temple still greets the rising sun as it has for 4,000 years. And when darkness falls, the complex returns to its original state, quiet, watchful, and unreadable. What did the ancient builders truly intend? Was Karnak merely a house of worship, or a machine of stone built to synchronize earth and sky, ruler and god, mortal and eternal? Until new discoveries emerge from beneath the sands, the temple will continue to guard its secrets, challenging us to look, to measure, and to wonder what we still do not know. From the hidden waterways of the Qanats beneath Iran, our journey now moves across continents into a landscape where water has always been a question of survival. Here, on the sun-scorched plains of southern Peru, another ancient hydrological system continues to perplex researchers. Older than many of the world's great empires, yet still functioning today, quietly, efficiently, and almost defiantly, these are the Puquios of Nazca. At ground level, the desert seems lifeless. Dust, wind, and a horizon of pale ochre stretching endlessly in every direction. But from above, something unusual appears. Spirals, perfectly carved into the desert floor, descending into the earth like portals. Archaeologists kneel at the edge of these corkscrew openings, equipped with measuring tools, drones, and soil instruments. What were once thought to be mere depressions are now recognized as entrances to a network of underground canals, reservoirs, and vents. An ancient water system still delivering life to the Nazca region, one of the driest places on Earth. The Nazca civilization flourished here from roughly 100 BC to 800 AD, leaving behind two enduring mysteries: the enormous geoglyphs etched into the desert surface, and the Puquios, whose origin and engineering remain the subject of debate. Mainstream scholars believe the Puquios were a practical response to a brutal climate, an effort to stabilize water access in a region with almost no rainfall. The spiral openings, known as ojos, act as ventilation shafts, allowing wind to circulate through subterranean tunnels and push water into agricultural fields by air pressure. The concept is elegant, almost poetic in its simplicity. Yet simplicity alone does not explain the precision. Many of the underground channels cut through gravel and bedrock along exact gradients, allowing water to flow without stagnation or collapse. There is no mortar, no cement. And yet, the system has persisted for over 1,000 years. How did ancient engineers determine the locations of aquifers with such accuracy? How did they carve stable tunnels over long distances through shifting earth without modern surveying technologies? These are questions that continue to challenge researchers. Some archaeologists propose that the Nazca people relied on observation, experience, and generations of accumulated local knowledge. That alone would be remarkable. An oral engineering tradition capable of sculpting a desert's hydraulic future. But other scholars point to an unsettling complication. Parts of the Puquios network connect to regions far beyond the Nazca heartland. The design shows similarities to systems found thousands of miles away, yet there is little explanation for how such knowledge might have traveled. This has opened the door to more speculative theories. A few researchers suggest that ancient Andean cultures may have possessed a sophisticated understanding of geology and hydrology, knowledge, perhaps, or instruments now lost to history. Others propose cultural contact with distant civilizations long before recorded transoceanic travel. And then there are those who look at the spirals themselves, noting that the Puquios visually echo the geometry of the Nazca lines. Could there have been a symbolic or astronomical dimension to their placement? Were these not just waterworks, but part of a larger system of environmental, spiritual, or cosmological design? No conclusive evidence supports these claims, but neither have they been fully dismissed. Modern science has only partially mapped the underground system. Some tunnels remain inaccessible. Others are too fragile to excavate. Local farmers, descendants of the communities that once relied on them, still maintain parts of the network using traditional methods. To them, the Puquios are not a mystery. They are heritage, alive, essential, and familiar. Yet even today, when drought grips the region, the ancient channels continue to deliver water. No pumps, no electricity, no modern upgrades. Just wind, stone, gravity, and an engineering logic that has outlived its creators by more than a millennium. Standing at the edge of a spiral ojo, researchers peer into the shadow below. Cool air rises from the depths. The chamber breathes. The desert, silent and unmoving above, hides the quiet pulse of a civilization that refused to surrender to its environment. And so the questions linger. How much did the Nazca truly know? Were they merely skilled survivors, or brilliant engineers whose knowledge has been lost to time? And beneath the sands of Peru, in tunnels still unexplored, what secrets might be waiting in the dark? The Puquios endure not merely as relics of a vanished civilization, but as living testimony to human ingenuity, observation, and determination. They remind us that even in the harshest landscapes, knowledge, craft, and perseverance can shape the environment, bending nature itself to sustain life. And perhaps, somewhere in the darkness of these ancient tunnels, more answers lie waiting, whispering across the centuries, challenging us to understand what the Nazca truly accomplished. From the colossal stones of Karnak and the mysteries carved into desert temples, our journey turns now to another kind of ancient engineering, one that lies mostly hidden, silent, and unseen beneath the earth. In the arid landscapes of Iran, where scorching summers and cloudless skies once threatened the survival of entire civilizations, a remarkable system still carries water across vast distances. A system older than empires, older than many of the structures that stand above it. It is called the Qanat. At first glance, there is little to see, only a series of small circular shafts scattered across miles of desert, like a line of dark, bottomless wells vanishing into the horizon. Most travelers pass them without notice. Yet beneath those openings lies one of the most sophisticated hydraulic networks in human history, gently sloping underground tunnels, stretching for miles, carrying cool, fresh water from distant aquifers to thirsty settlements below. No pumps, no electricity, no modern machinery. And yet, these channels have functioned continuously for more than 2,500 years. Invented around 800 BC, some argue earlier, the Qanat system allowed ancient communities to thrive where nature offered almost nothing. The principle was simple. Find water at a high altitude, carve a tunnel with a precise downward slope, and let gravity deliver life to fields, villages, and orchards below. But the execution was anything but simple. Engineers had to measure gradients with extreme precision. Too steep, and the tunnel would collapse. Too shallow, and the water would never flow. They dug sometimes 300 feet deep, through hard rock and shifting sands, using tools of bronze, wood, and stone. How did they maintain accuracy across such long distances and in total darkness? Mainstream historians credit generations of skilled tunnel builders, expert surveyors, and trial-and-error methods refined over centuries. It is a reasonable explanation. Yet these tunnels run for miles at exactly the right angle, year after year, without deviation. The precision rivals modern instruments. Some qanats stretch more than 50 kilometers. Others continue to flow across fault lines, surviving earthquakes, floods, and time itself. How could such consistency be achieved with ancient tools? And why has modern engineering, with all its advances, never truly improved on the Qanat's simple, sustainable design? Even more intriguing is how far this technology traveled. Variations of the Qanat system appear across the ancient world, from North Africa to Arabia, from Central Asia to parts of the Mediterranean. Some scholars believe the technology spread through conquest and trade. Others suggest independent invention. But there is a fringe perspective that asks a different question. Did the knowledge come from an even older source? Perhaps a forgotten culture that understood water, stone, and earth in ways lost to time? There is no proof of such a civilization, only unanswered questions and the undeniable sophistication of the system itself. Then there are the more speculative theories. Ideas that Qanats were not just practical infrastructure, but part of a deeper environmental intelligence. Some researchers point to the placement of Qanats along geologically active lines, suggesting that ancient builders might have understood the Earth's natural water veins or even subtle energies within the ground. Others claim that the structure of the surface shafts, perfectly spaced like the segments of a serpent, reflects celestial symbolism, intentionally aligning water with sky. Are these meaningful clues or simply coincidence layered with imagination? The academic world remains skeptical, but the questions remain. What is certain is this: the Qanat ensured survival. It fed crops, sustained communities, and allowed ancient cities to flourish in regions that would otherwise have been uninhabitable. And remarkably, many Qanats still function today. Villages continue to draw water from channels carved before the rise of classical Greece, before Rome, before the world as we know it. In some places, farmers still maintain the tunnels using ancestral techniques, passed down from father to son for more than 2 millennia. Standing in the desert heat, looking across the line of ancient shafts disappearing into shimmering air, one cannot help but wonder about the builders. Who first conceived of tunneling through mountains for unseen rivers? What knowledge guided their hands beneath the earth? And how much of that knowledge have we forgotten? The Qanat endures, silent, effective, and largely ignored, flowing through darkness as it has for thousands of years. And perhaps, hidden in those tunnels, in their perfect gradients and improbable longevity, lies a message from the past. That some of humanity's greatest achievements are not the monuments that touch the sky, but the invisible systems that quietly sustain life. What other ancient solutions buried beneath sand and stone still wait to be rediscovered? Under the fading echo of the last mystery we explored, our journey now drifts south, across desert sands shaped by wind, time, and forgotten footsteps. Here, in the heart of the Arabian Peninsula, an ancient city rises abruptly from the barren earth like a mirage, impossible, geometric, and defiant. This is Shibam, often called the Manhattan of the desert, a place where skyscrapers of sun-baked mud have stood for centuries, piercing the horizon in a vertical forest of ochre towers. From a distance, Shibam appears almost unreal. A tight cluster of rectangular high-rises, many reaching 7, 8, even 11 stories high, surrounded by empty desert, as though an ancient hand set them down all at once. The city's uniform color blends with the surrounding plateau, and at sunset, the skyline glows amber as if lit from within. Wind sweeps through the valley of Wadi Hadramaut, carrying grains of sand that brush against the towering walls. These buildings are not ruins. They are not remnants of a dead civilization. They are alive, still inhabited, still functioning, still protecting families just as they did centuries ago. Shibam's mud brick towers date back to at least the 1500s, and many researchers believe that foundations and settlement layers beneath the city go back far earlier. Yet it is not their age alone that astonishes historians. It is their design. Each skyscraper was built using nothing more than earth, water, straw, and wooden support beams. In a land with no forests and few stones, the people of Shibam chose mud, one of the least durable materials imaginable, and somehow they shaped it into one of the earliest examples of vertical urban planning anywhere on Earth. Why build upward rather than outward, especially in a vast desert with room to expand? The accepted explanation may seem simple: protection. The region was once vulnerable to tribal raids, and by constructing a dense vertical city surrounded by walls, Shibam's residents could defend themselves more easily. Height became a shield. Narrow streets formed a maze. Gates could be sealed. A city could be protected. But is that the whole story? Some architects and historians point out that Shibam's layout displays a sophistication far beyond mere defense. The streets form efficient channels for desert wind, cooling the city naturally. Thick earthen walls regulate temperature, keeping interiors surprisingly cool by day and warm by night. The vertical clustering also preserves valuable farmland, sparing fertile soil from urban sprawl. For a medieval settlement, the approach seems remarkably modern, sustainable, compact, and climate-responsive, the very principles used in cutting-edge green city designs today. Coincidence? Or inherited knowledge? Then comes a more puzzling question. How has such a city survived at all? Mud architecture is vulnerable to rain, erosion, and time itself. Yet Shibam has endured for nearly half a millennium in its current form, and for far longer as a settlement. Its secret lies not only in construction, but in community. Every few years, residents replaster their towers with fresh layers of mud, renewing the city like skin regenerating over bone. This ritual maintenance blurs the line between architecture and organism. Shibam does not simply stand in the desert. It lives there. Still, mystery lingers at the edges. Some fringe theorists suggest that Shibam's vertical tradition may echo a far older blueprint, traces of an ancestral architectural knowledge that predates written history. Others find it curious that vertical mud cities or fortresses appear in scattered places across the ancient world, often in regions that had little contact with one another. Is this just convergent evolution in human engineering? Or could there have been forgotten exchanges of ideas, lost trade routes, or shared origins erased by time? There are also those who turn to legend. Local folklore hints at ancient peoples with extraordinary building skills, vanished long before the city we know was raised. Are such stories merely poetic memory? Or fractured echoes of civilizations we have yet to uncover beneath the sands? And what might lie there now, undiscovered, beneath streets that have been walked for 1,000 years? As night falls over Shibam, lanterns glow from mud brick windows high above the desert floor. The towers, fragile in material yet enduring in presence, stand as they always have, silent but expressive. They challenge our assumptions about what is temporary and what is everlasting, about what is primitive and what is advanced, and what is... How did a remote desert community create a functional skyscraper city centuries before modern steel and concrete? How much knowledge have we lost? And how much remains hidden, waiting for us to notice? The wind moves again through the narrow alleys of Shibam, and the desert keeps its secrets. Beneath the lingering echoes of our last ancient wonder, our path now drifts northward, across the deep blue expanse of the Mediterranean. As the water gives way to rugged limestone cliffs and sun-drenched shores, an island emerges, small, windswept, and seemingly unassuming. Yet here, on the southern edge of Malta, stands one of the oldest and most enigmatic megalithic structures on Earth, a place older than Stonehenge, older than the Great Pyramids of Giza, a temple complex known as Hagar, perched on a rocky slope overlooking the open sea. Hagar Chim greets the dawn before almost anywhere else in Europe. At sunrise, its colossal stones cast long shadows across a barren plateau while waves crash below as they have for thousands of years. The structure seems to grow from the earth itself. Massive slabs of limestone, some weighing over 20 tons, arranged in elegant curves and oval chambers. The stones are weathered, softened by time, and yet they stand, locked in position as though held by an invisible order. There is no mortar, no metal framework, no written blueprint. And yet, the temple still functions as it did thousands of years ago, aligned to the sky, to the sun, and perhaps to something more. Archaeologists date the temple to around the 4th millennium BC. If accurate, this makes Hagar Chim among the oldest freestanding human structures still standing and still working, not as a dwelling or fortress, but as a monumental instrument. For this is no mere shrine or gathering hall. Its passageways and apertures are aligned with celestial events. Each year at the summer solstice, a beam of sunlight enters through a precisely cut doorway and illuminates the inner chamber. At the equinox, the same phenomenon occurs again, as though the temple itself is breathing in rhythm with the cosmos. But how did Stone Age builders, without metal tools, wheels, or advanced mathematics, move megaliths of unimaginable weight? And even more mysteriously, how did they align them with such accuracy that the structure still operates today as a solar marker, tracking the heavens with silent precision? The mainstream explanation suggests patient labor, ropes, rolling logs, and a deep observation of the sky. The builders, according to conventional theory, were a farming society with remarkable dedication, profound spiritual beliefs, and a generational memory of the stars. Yet for some researchers, that explanation feels incomplete. Why build something so massive, so complex, so early in human history? And why here, on a small island isolated in the center of the Mediterranean? Within the chambers of Hagar Chim, archaeologists have uncovered altars, carved idols, and mysterious stone tables. Some believe the temple was devoted to a mother goddess cult, an ancient tradition centered on fertility, earth, and life cycles. Others see something broader, a prehistoric science, encoded in limestone. The temple's curves resemble the shape of a womb. Its solstice alignment mirrors celestial cycles. Its chambers echo with acoustic resonance, as though designed to amplify ritual chants or induce altered states of consciousness. Was this a place of worship, a cosmic observatory, a healing center, or something that defies categorization altogether? Then there are more speculative questions, whispers at the edge of accepted history. Some point to the megalith's sheer scale and early date and ask whether Malta's temple culture inherited lost knowledge from an even older civilization, erased by rising seas at the end of the Ice Age. Others note Malta's position along ancient maritime routes and wonder whether the builders were part of a forgotten network of seafaring peoples long before the age of recorded empires. And perhaps the most provocative question of all, why did this extraordinary temple culture vanish? By roughly 2500 BC, the civilization that built Hagar Chim and its sister temples disappears from the archaeological record. No invasion layer, no clear sign of disaster, no definitive cause, only silence. The temples remained, timeless, impenetrable, abandoned. Across the island, the wind continued to blow through empty chambers built for voices that would never return. Yet today, the solstice light still enters the temple, just as it did over 5,000 years ago. Its stones have outlived languages, kingdoms, religions, and eras. They were ancient before recorded history began, and they are still performing exactly what they were designed to do. So we must ask, what knowledge did these builders possess? How much has been lost? And what else might lie beneath Malta's soil, still buried, still hidden, waiting to reshape our understanding of the ancient world? Hagar is more than stone and shadow. It is a testament to human ingenuity, observation, and a relationship with the heavens that modern eyes can scarcely comprehend. Standing before it, one senses not just the weight of history, but the pulse of knowledge long obscured, an intelligence encoded in limestone, aligned with the sun, the sky, and perhaps even the secrets of the ancients themselves. From the soft Mediterranean winds of Malta, our journey now crosses an ocean and climbs thousands of feet into the thin, crisp air of the Andes. Here, above the ancient city of Cusco, another monument waits, vast, silent, and immovable. It is not a temple of delicate carvings, nor a structure of elegant geometry. Instead, it is a fortress of stone so massive and so precise that, even today, engineers and historians find themselves pausing in disbelief. This is Sacsayhuamán, the great zigzagging wall of Peru, a megalithic masterpiece built by hands we still struggle to fully understand. Beneath an open sky at more than 12,000 feet above sea level, the stones of Sacsayhuamán shimmer in the Andean light. Each block, some weighing 50, 100, or even 150 tons, is carved into unique shapes, fitted together without mortar, and locked so tightly that not even a sheet of paper can slip between them. Their faces are smooth, their edges are sharp, and their arrangement, like interlocking puzzle pieces, has withstood centuries of earthquakes that have leveled cities and toppled cathedrals. Yet here, the wall remains, solid, steadfast, almost defiant. The Inca are credited with its construction, most likely in the 15th century. But beneath that accepted narrative lies a growing list of questions. Why does the stonework at Sacsayhuamán appear more advanced, more exacting than many other Inca sites? Where did the knowledge and engineering techniques originate? How were these immense blocks quarried, transported, and lifted into place, especially in a culture that had no iron tools, no written language, and no wheels? Mainstream archaeology offers one vision: thousands of laborers working over generations, using stone hammers, wooden levers, ropes, and sheer endurance. By carving perfectly matched surfaces, gravity and geometry created stability. The wall's zigzag pattern, according to many scholars, was both symbolic and strategic, representing lightning while also making the fortress difficult to assault. Yet even if the methods were simple, the execution was anything but. The precision is extraordinary. The blocks are not uniform rectangles. Instead, each stone has a different shape, with multiple sides and angles, forcing the builders to custom fit every piece. This raises an unsettling question: why choose the hardest possible method? Why not cut regular blocks and stack them in neat rows, as so many civilizations did before and after? This curiosity has opened the door to more speculative theories. Some researchers suggest that Sacsayhuamán's walls may have been built in stages, with the most advanced stonework predating the Inca themselves, part of a legacy inherited from an earlier, forgotten culture. Others point to legends of the Andes that speak of the Hanan Pacha and the first builders, a race or people who raised the great stones long before Cusco became an empire. Could the Inca have expanded a much older megalithic complex, rather than building it entirely on their own? And then there are fringe interpretations, ideas whispered quietly at the edge of historical debate. Ancient high technology, lost knowledge of stone softening, acoustic levitation, even hints of celestial alignment. While such theories lack solid evidence, their persistence demonstrates just how deeply Sacsayhuamán unsettles conventional understanding. What is less debated is the wall's resilience. The Andes are seismically active. Earthquakes strike this region repeatedly. Spanish colonial buildings have fallen. modern structures have fractured. But Sacsayhuamán, built without mortar, flexes and resists, as if the stones are alive, shifting together in a single body. Was this seismic engineering intentional? And if so, how did its builders master principles that modern architects still study with fascination? Even the layout of the site suggests layered meaning. From above, the zigzag walls appear like the jaws of a great puma, the sacred animal of Inca cosmology, and Cusco itself, according to some researchers, was designed in the shape of this powerful creature. Did Sacsayhuamán serve only as a fortress, or was it also a ceremonial center, a symbol, a message carved into the earth itself? Today, the great stones remain in place, their surfaces scarred by time but their structure unbroken. They still function, protecting, enduring, and defying both nature and explanation. As the sun sets over the Andes and the temperature drops sharply, a strange stillness settles over the walls. The stones, cold and silent, seem to hold their secrets close as they have for centuries. And so the question lingers, unresolved. Were these walls simply the peak achievement of a remarkable civilization? Or are they the surviving clue to a chapter of human history that we have barely begun to uncover? Sacsayhuamán endures not merely as a fortress, but as a testament to human ingenuity, observation, and persistence. It challenges our assumptions about what ancient people could accomplish with minimal tools and yet extraordinary knowledge. Standing before it, one senses the weight of history and the presence of secrets, locked in stone, waiting patiently for those who might one day decipher them. From the silent stones of Sacsayhuamán, we now travel across the ocean and north along the windswept Atlantic coast, where another ancient structure rises, not in a mountain fortress, but at the edge of the sea. Here in Galicia, Spain, the crash of relentless waves meets sheer cliffs and a horizon that fades into mist. Standing guard above the waters is a towering monument of stone. The Tower of Hercules, the world's oldest functioning lighthouse, still in use after nearly 2,000 years. Its flame no longer burns with oil or wood, yet its purpose endures: to guide travelers, protect sailors, and mark the boundary between land and the unknown. From a distance, the tower is stark and solemn, rising 180 feet above the rugged shoreline. The Atlantic winds howl, gulls circle overhead, and the salt-laden air hangs thick around its base. Built during the Roman Empire, likely in the 1st century AD, the lighthouse has survived storms, wars, neglect, and centuries of renewal. Even now, modern ships rely on the beacon that shines from its summit. No other Roman lighthouse still performs its original role. Already, the structure invites a question. What gave this one such extraordinary longevity? Historical records suggest that the Romans constructed the tower to guide vessels into the busy port of Brigantium, an essential waypoint on Atlantic trade routes. Architecturally, it reflects classic Roman engineering: thick masonry walls, a square layout, and precision stonework built to resist wind and erosion. Beneath its current facade lies the original Roman core, encased but not replaced. The tower we see today is both ancient and modern, a seamless merging of eras. Yet, like many ancient structures, the Tower of Hercules exists at a crossroads between fact and legend. Local folklore, predating the Roman presence, speaks of a giant named Geryon who terrorized the region. One story claims that Hercules slew the giant, buried his head on the hill, and built the lighthouse above the grave. Another legend suggests the tower marks a gateway to the other world, a maritime boundary separating the realm of the living from the realm beyond. Was the site chosen merely for practical navigation, or did its location already hold spiritual significance, long before Rome arrived? Even the tower's design prompts curiosity. Scholars note unusual features: details not commonly found in other Roman lighthouses or watchtowers. Some propose that the structure was modeled on the famed Lighthouse of Alexandria, one of the ancient world's greatest engineering achievements. If so, was the Tower of Hercules simply an imitation, or a deliberate attempt to recreate lost architectural knowledge from a wonder of the world? Speculation deepens when considering alignment. Some researchers observe that the tower corresponds with key points along the coastline and suggest it may have functioned as a geodetic marker or even an astronomical guide. Could the Romans have embedded navigational or observational systems beyond the simple task of lighting the shore? Others wonder whether the lighthouse was built atop a far older foundation, a Celtic or Phoenician beacon that guided sailors along pre-Roman trade networks. Mainstream archaeology remains cautious, attributing the tower's endurance to Roman engineering skill, careful construction, and subsequent restoration. Yet mysteries linger. Why did this lighthouse, and no other Roman lighthouse, survive in both structure and function when countless others fell to ruin? What combination of cultural, strategic, and symbolic value ensured its preservation, generation after generation? And why do legends cling so tightly to this particular site, as if the tower stands at the intersection of history and myth? Today, modern light technology glows where ancient flames once burned, but the purpose is unchanged. Ships still cut through fog and darkness, guided by a tower built before the fall of Rome, before the birth of medieval kingdoms, before most of European history had even unfolded. The lighthouse remains a bridge through time, one of the rare places where ancient engineering touches modern life directly, without interruption. And yet, there is something more. Standing at the base of the tower, the waves thrashing against cliffs far below, the wind carries whispers of centuries. You can almost feel the weight of every storm, every ship saved, every story layered atop the other, the human presence, the natural force, the persistent watch of stone. Each element seems imbued with a purpose that transcends mere practicality. As the beam sweeps across the Atlantic night, steady, silent, and tireless, we are left to wonder, is the Tower of Hercules simply a marvel of Roman durability, a feat of material science and engineering foresight? Or is there more hidden in its stones, more lingering in its legends, more encoded in the decisions that placed it here at the edge of the world, where land meets the infinite sea? The answer remains elusive. And perhaps that is precisely what gives the tower its enduring power. It is alive with history, myth, and purpose, a sentinel connecting past and present, human ingenuity, and the eternal rhythm of the ocean. For nearly 2 millennia, it has watched over sailors and travelers alike, and still it continues its silent vigil, unbroken, unwavering, and profoundly mysterious. From the storm-battered cliffs of the Atlantic, where the Tower of Hercules still casts its beam into the night, we now move inland, far from the sea, deep into the heart of the ancient Levant. Here, on a wind-swept hill overlooking fertile plains and winding roads, rises a fortress so imposing, so flawlessly engineered, that centuries of siege, war, and time have failed to bring it down. This is Krak des Chevaliers, one of the greatest medieval castles ever built, and one of the few that still stands largely intact in modern-day Syria. The first sight of the fortress is overwhelming. Massive concentric walls rise from the slopes like a man-made mountain, crowned with towers, battlements, and silent corridors that once echoed with the footsteps of knights. Viewed from a distance, Krak des Chevaliers seems almost unreal, too symmetrical, too impenetrable, an architectural statement carved into the landscape. At sunrise, its stone glows golden, catching the first light. At dusk, it fades into a dark silhouette, like a slumbering guardian keeping watch over the valley below. Originally built by local rulers and later expanded by Crusader forces in the 12th and 13th centuries, the fortress served as a strategic stronghold along vital trade and military routes. Its design is a masterpiece of military engineering. Thick double walls, an inner keep, hidden stairways, sloping ramparts, and a moat. Rainwater collection and storage systems were carefully planned, allowing defenders to survive sieges that might starve or dehydrate lesser fortresses into surrender. Remarkably, many of these systems still function today. The layout is so advanced that modern military historians continue to study it, fascinated by its logic, efficiency, and resilience. Yet, as with many ancient structures, the deeper one looks, the more questions emerge. Legend claims the castle was never taken by force. Its thick walls and elevated position gave it natural supremacy, but some stories suggest its construction was guided by knowledge far beyond that of typical medieval architects. How did the builders, with limited tools, achieve such precision on a scale so vast? Why do certain corridors align with points of sunrise and sunset during solstices? Were these alignments merely coincidental, or hints that Krak des Chevaliers once had symbolic or ceremonial purposes beyond warfare? Mainstream historians attribute the fortress's perfection to the Knights Hospitaller, a military order renowned for discipline, organization, and engineering skill. They argue that the castle's brilliance represents the culmination of centuries of experimentation in fortification design, and yet, hints suggest the site's significance predates the Crusader era. Beneath the foundations lie older stones, remnants of earlier fortresses and civilizations. Some researchers speculate the hilltop may have hosted strategic or sacred structures long before medieval armies arrived. This opens the door to more speculative theories. Some believe Krak des Chevaliers was chosen for its geomagnetic properties, making it ideal for both defense and long-distance communication. Others claim that underground chambers, still sealed and largely unexplored, may hide relics from vanished orders or forgotten civilizations. A few fringe ideas suggest the fortress was part of a network of signal towers stretching across the region, an ancient communication grid whose full scope remains unknown. There is no definitive evidence for such claims, yet the mysteries persist. Why do certain tunnels abruptly end, as if intentionally blocked or left unfinished? Why are some chambers hidden, with no clear defensive or ceremonial purpose? And what truly lay beneath the structure before Crusaders reshaped it into the fortress we see today? Even now, Krak des Chevaliers continues to function. It remains a fortress by form, a symbol of endurance, and a testament to human ingenuity. The castle stands firm against wind, weather, and conflict, its walls resonating with silent memory. Visitors walk its battlements, peer into vaulted halls, and touch stones shaped nearly a millennium ago, stones that continue to do the job they were built for, to withstand time itself. As the sun sets over the Syrian hills and the sky deepens to violet, Krak des Chevaliers becomes a shadow once more, unyielding, watchful, and enigmatic. The wind whistles through its ramparts, carrying the distant echo of past sieges, the quiet discipline of sentinels, and the whispers of secrets long held within stone. Each element of the fortress, the walls, towers, corridors, and chambers, seems alive with purpose, as if the builder's intent persists in the very air, in the angles of masonry, in the rhythm of the battlements. And so we are left to wonder, is Krak des Chevaliers simply the greatest fortress of the medieval world, a triumph of human engineering and strategy? Or is there more hidden within its stones, in the tunnels and chambers that remain unexplored, in the alignment of walls with the sun and stars, in the faint echoes of centuries past? Something waiting, still to be discovered. Something that might reshape how we understand medieval history itself? From the mighty Crusader walls of Krak des Chevaliers, our journey turns south into deserts of shifting sands and silent stone. Here, in a landscape where water is as precious as life itself, an ancient city lies carved into rose-red cliffs, an impossible metropolis hidden within a maze of canyons. This is Petra, the once flourishing capital of the Nabatean kingdom. And while its rock-cut temples, tombs, and monumental facades ignite the imagination, it is something far less visible and far more ingenious that allowed this city to thrive. A mysterious network of water channels that still functions, more than 2,000 years after its creation. The first approach to Petra is through the Sikh, a narrow gorge that twists like a serpent between towering sandstone walls. Here, etched into the rock beside the traveler's path, are long, shallow grooves and covered channels, some no wider than a hand. At a glance, they are easy to overlook, mere scratches in the cliff. Yet these channels were once the arteries of an entire civilization, carrying precious water over great distances, distributing it, storing it, and protecting it from the desert sun. In this dry, relentless environment, the feat borders on miraculous. Historians tell us the Nabateans were master engineers. Between the 3rd century BC and the 1st century AD, they devised a water management system of staggering complexity. Dams, reservoirs, ceramic pipelines, settling pools, and gravity-fed channels that controlled the flow of seasonal rains and distant springs. At its height, Petra, deep in the desert, possessed an abundance of drinking water, irrigation, fountains, and public baths. Even today, flash floods that once roared through the Sikh can be diverted by these ancient systems with surprising effectiveness. Much of the engineering still works. Much of it still carries life-giving water. But as with many achievements of the ancient world, the closer we look, the more the mystery deepens. How did a people once described as nomadic develop such advanced hydraulic knowledge? Why do certain channels run in seemingly inefficient patterns that, upon closer examination, prove to be precisely calculated to slow water flow, prevent erosion, and reduce evaporation? And how did the Nabateans, who left behind almost no written records of science or mathematics, master techniques that rival and sometimes surpass Roman aqueducts? Mainstream historians offer a logical explanation. The Nabateans were keen observers of the natural world. They learned from trade, adapted foreign methods, and refined them through experimentation. Petra sat at the crossroads of major caravan routes. Ideas flowed as freely as incense, silk, and spices. Through time, necessity drove innovation. The desert demanded brilliance, and brilliance emerged. Yet some suggest there was more, knowledge older than the Nabateans themselves. Certain fringe researchers argue that the water channels sit atop even earlier pathways, hinting at a forgotten culture that first mapped and manipulated the terrain. Others point to the uncanny precision of the channels, cut at consistent gradients across wildly uneven rock, and ask, could such perfection have been achieved without advanced instruments? Or did the Nabateans possess tools and techniques that have vanished from history? More speculative theories reach further still. Some propose that Petra's water system was part of a greater regional network, hydraulic lines that connected settlements, channeling not just water but trade, knowledge, and perhaps even sacred ritual. A few go so far as to suggest that Petra was deliberately designed as a desert power center, where water was not only a resource but a symbol, a controlled, tamed force that granted both spiritual and political authority. Water, after all, was life. To command it was to command destiny. Walking through the ancient channels, one can feel the weight of these unanswered questions. The clay pipes are silent. The reservoirs sit empty. Yet when rare desert rains fall, the system awakens, guiding the flood, redirecting torrents, preserving what can be saved. Across millennia, the design endures. The desert still respects the Nabatean's hand. Even today, the ingenuity of the system challenges modern engineers. Some channels maintain perfect gradients despite centuries of erosion. Settling pools remove sediment naturally. Overflow routes prevent destructive flooding. The technology is simple, elegant, and astonishingly effective, proof of a culture that transformed a harsh environment into a flourishing oasis without metal tools, advanced mathematics, or written manuals. As the sun sets over Petra, the sandstone glows in hues of red and gold, and the channels etched along the walls of the Sick fade back into shadow. They remain what they have always been, quiet, efficient, and enigmatic. And we are left to wonder, were they simply the work of gifted engineers responding to a harsh land? Or do they hint at a deeper story buried beneath Petra's rose-red cliffs, one that the desert has not yet revealed? The echo of ancient waterways and desert stone fades behind us, but the theme endures. Systems built thousands of years ago, still outlasting empires, cultures, and the march of time itself. Now, our journey carries us north and west, along routes that have connected continents, armies, ideas, and civilizations. As the camera glides over sweeping landscapes, mountains, forests, plains, and coastlines, we follow lines etched into the earth with almost geometric certainty. Some run straight as an arrow, others bend with the terrain, yet never seem to lose their purpose. These are the Roman roads of Europe, pathways of stone that have endured for nearly 2 millennia and in many places still function today. Picture one of these roads at dawn. A thin mist clings to the fields. Dew gathers on wild grass that now presses against weathered stones. Underfoot, the surface is still firm, still even, still aligned with a precision that modern surveyors would recognize. Horses once thundered over these routes. Legions marched in lethal formation. Merchants, priests, diplomats, and emperors followed the same measured lines, trusting in the durability of Rome's design. Today, cars roll over some of them. In quieter places, bicycles and footsteps do. The world has changed. The roads have not. The Romans built more than 250,000 miles of roads across their empire, tens of thousands of which were paved. According to historians, their primary purpose was military, to move armies quickly, to secure borders, and to project power. But these roads became much more. They carried trade, technology, architecture, language, and law from one end of the known world to the other. Europe, as we recognize it today, would not exist in the same shape without them. But here is the question that lingers. How did roads built with hand tools, simple surveying instruments, and no modern machinery survive longer than many of our highways today? The Romans employed a genius blend of layers, gravel, stone, sand, and mortar, engineered for drainage, stability, and endurance. They preferred straight lines whenever possible, cutting through hills or spanning terrain with bridges rather than bending unnecessarily. Yet, even knowing the technique, something about their longevity still feels uncanny. Roads built in our own century crumble in decades. These have endured almost 2,000 years. Mainstream explanations are clear. Superior engineering, relentless maintenance during the empire's height, and masterful use of local materials. But mystery creeps in at the edges. How did Roman surveyors, without satellites or GPS, achieve such astonishing accuracy over vast distances? Why do some roads align almost perfectly with natural magnetic paths? And how did plans for such a massive network remain consistent across different cultures, climates, and provinces, from Britannia to the sands of North Africa? Some speculative researchers suggest that surviving Roman roads hint at knowledge the Romans may have inherited rather than invented, perhaps from older civilizations whose records have been lost. Others propose that Rome possessed instruments or mathematical systems that have not survived in written form. There are fringe theories, too, that certain sections were built along Earth energy lines or geomagnetic corridors, contributing to their endurance. These claims lie outside accepted scholarship, yet they persist, raising questions that historians cannot fully silence. Even the symbolism of the roads remains provocative. All roads lead to Rome, the old proverb claims. Was this merely a statement of logistics and power, or something else? Were these roads designed only as practical highways, or also as instruments of control, communication, and identity, meant to bind a world together in ways we still do not fully grasp? Today, fragments of this network still function as everyday infrastructure. Modern European routes follow Roman foundations. In some towns, engineers who dig beneath asphalt discover perfectly preserved Roman paving stones, and in rare cases, reactivate them. It is as if Rome's hand still guides our movement, shaping choices we no longer realize we are making. And so we are left with a paradox. The empire that built these roads has vanished. Its forums are silent. Its temples stand in ruin. Its language survives mostly in books and borrowed words. Yet the roads, the simplest of its monuments, still live. They still carry us forward. What does it mean that pathways from a fallen world remain active in ours? What other secrets lie beneath their stones, waiting to be uncovered? And if a road can outlast a civilization, what else might still be waiting from an age we thought we understood? The answers, for now, remain buried, just beneath the surface. The old stone roads of Europe fade into the horizon behind us, yet the theme they represent, precision, purpose, and endurance, guides us onward. For our next chapter, the journey leaps across the Atlantic to a land of steep mountains, vast plateaus, and civilizations that thrived long before European maps even acknowledged their existence. High in the Oaxacan Valley of southern Mexico, an ancient city rises above the clouds, Monte Alban. And at its heart stands a mysterious structure, neither temple nor tomb, but something aligned not to earthly rulers, but to the sky itself. The scene opens at dawn. The air is crisp. Mist drifts across the mountaintop. As the first rays of sunlight stretch over the horizon, they strike a peculiar stone building at a deliberate angle, as though its architects anticipated the movement of the heavens thousands of years into the future. This is Building J, believed by many to be one of the oldest observatories in the Americas, constructed by the Zapotec civilization. Even in ruin, it commands attention. Its orientation is unlike any other structure around it, set askew from the city grid, pointing to something beyond the terrestrial world. Historians date Monte Alban to around 500 BC. It flourished as a political, religious, and astronomical center for centuries. From this vantage point, over 1,900 meters above sea level, the Zapotec elite observed not only their kingdom, but the cosmos. The city's layout itself seems to mirror the order of the sky. But it is Building J that stands apart, a diamond-shaped structure pierced with tunnels, chambers, and viewing angles, oriented roughly 45 degrees off the axis of the rest of Monte Alban. Why? The mainstream explanation is elegant. Scholars believe Zapotec astronomer priests used the structure to track key celestial events, the solstices, the movement of specific stars, and perhaps most importantly, the cycles of Venus. In Mesoamerican cultures, Venus was not merely a point of light. It was a divine force tied to war, rulership, and prophecy. Aligning architecture with its path gave power to those who controlled the calendar, because those who controlled the calendar controlled time, ritual, and destiny. Yet the mystery deepens. Building J appears to align with the star Capella around the time of its construction. Other interior alignments may track lunar extremes or the zenith sun passage, an event that occurs only in the tropics when the sun stands directly overhead with no shadow. To achieve such astronomical precision, the Zapotec would have needed generations of observation, complex knowledge of astronomy, and a mathematical understanding rarely credited to pre-Columbian societies just a few decades ago. This raises questions modern archaeology has not fully answered. How did the Zapotec achieve such precision without lenses, modern instruments, or written astronomical treatises that have survived? Why does Building J contain glyphs that some researchers interpret as place names of distant conquered cities, suggesting that the observatory may also have served a geopolitical purpose? And why does the structure's orientation seem tied not only to the sky, but to distant geographic points on the Earth? More speculative theories push the mystery further. Some suggest Monte Alban was part of a network of ancient observatories stretching across Mesoamerica, sharing knowledge through alignments, sightlines, or encoded geometry. Others go deeper into fringe territory, proposing that Zapotec astronomers inherited their sky knowledge from an even older lost culture, one whose records did not survive, but whose science lived on in stone. A few even ask whether Building J hints at a forgotten understanding of Earth's energy fields or cosmic cycles we have yet to rediscover. Whether one follows accepted archaeology or more unorthodox speculation, one fact is indisputable. Monte Alban still works. Even now, on solstice mornings and key astronomical dates, light, shadow, and star alignments strike Building J with the same deliberate precision seen over 2,000 years ago. The structure continues to function as its builders intended. Time has weathered its stones, but not its purpose. So we are left to wonder, was this simply a tool for tracking seasons and planting cycles? Or was it a cosmic instrument, a bridge between Earth and sky, designed to synchronize human life with the universe itself? And if the Zapotec understood so much, what else did they know that has not yet been uncovered? The answers may still lie buried beneath Monte Alban's terraces, or written in glyphs we have not yet learned to interpret. For now, the observatory stands silent, its angles unchanged, still watching the heavens, just as it has for more than 2 millennia. From the silent observatory of Monte Alban, where stone corridors once framed the movements of stars, our attention now shifts far across the Pacific. The sky remains our guide, but the landscape transforms. Lush emerald jungles, drifting mists, and volcanic silhouettes form the backdrop of one of the world's most elaborate and enduring sacred structures. Rising from the heart of central Java in Indonesia, a monument of astonishing complexity emerges from the morning haze. Borobudur. At first light, its dark volcanic stones glow faintly gold beneath the sun. Layer upon layer, 9 stacked platforms spiral upward in a perfect mandala, crowned by a single great stupa at the summit. From above, Borobudur resembles a cosmic diagram, a 3-dimensional map of the Buddhist universe carved into a mountainside of stone. Up close, it is a labyrinth of reliefs, corridors, and bell-shaped stupas. Even after more than 1,200 years, the monument functions exactly as intended. A ritual pathway for spiritual ascent, guiding visitors from the earthly realm to enlightenment, one step, one level, one story at a time. Mainstream historians date the construction of Borobudur to around the 8th and 9th centuries AD, during the Sailendra dynasty. Built without mortar, the temple consists of over 2 million stone blocks locked together with remarkable precision. Yet no written record survives explaining who the chief architect was, or how such a colossal project was coordinated in an era without modern machinery. Questions linger. How did engineers ensure perfect alignment with the cardinal directions? How did they prevent collapse on a volcanic plain prone to earthquakes and torrential rains? Its function, however, is clear. Borobudur is a mandala brought to life, an active monument that still works. As pilgrims ascend clockwise through its terraces, they pass more than 2,600 carved panels depicting moral lessons, cosmic laws, and the life of the Buddha. When viewed in sequence, these reliefs form a continuous, flowing narrative, the world's largest story carved in stone. The journey culminates at the open circular platforms, where 72 perforated stupas sit like silent sentinels, encircling the central dome. Standing there, above the jungle canopy, one feels suspended between earth and sky. Yet Borobudur's mystery runs deeper than spiritual symbolism. Archaeologists discovered that the temple aligns with solstices and equinoxes in ways that seem deliberate, suggesting that its designers understood both astronomy and sacred geometry. Some researchers argue that Borobudur's proportions reflect ancient mathematical ratios, similar to those seen in monumental architecture across distant civilizations. Is this coincidence? An example of universal mathematical intuition? Or evidence of knowledge shared through early trade routes that once linked Southeast Asia to India, Arabia, and beyond? More perplexing still are the drainage systems. Hidden channels, carved spouts, and stone gutters divert rainfall with such efficiency that the structure has endured monsoon after monsoon. Without this engineering, Borobudur would have eroded centuries ago. Instead, it still stands. It still sheds water. It still protects its carvings as if its builders anticipated the climate of the far future. How did 9th century engineers develop such a lasting hydrological design, one that modern conservationists continue to rely on? There are even more speculative theories. Some fringe researchers suggest that Borobudur may encode astronomical cycles beyond the solar year, perhaps lunar calendars, the precession of constellations, or long-count time systems similar to those used across the ancient world. Others have proposed that its stepped form mirrors sacred mountains or even pyramidal structures found continents away, hinting at a lost global tradition of sky-oriented architecture. And then there is the question of what lies beneath. In the 19th century, excavators found that the base of Borobudur had been intentionally buried by its own builders. Beneath the visible foundation is an entire hidden level, covered, sealed, and forgotten for centuries. The exposed panels that were documented reveal scenes not of enlightenment, but of earthly desires, consequences, and suffering. Why was this layer concealed? Was it purely symbolic, representing the realm of attachment that must be transcended? Or does its burial hint at a change in doctrine, leadership, or purpose? Borobudur continues to function, not as a relic, but as a living monument. Pilgrims still walk its path. Astronomical alignments still mark the sky. Monsoon rains still flow through its ancient drainage channels, but its silence leaves room for wonder. Was Borobudur simply the peak of Silendra engineering and Buddhist devotion? Or is it also a vault of encoded knowledge, astronomical, architectural, or spiritual, waiting to be fully understood? And if one of the world's greatest temples still holds unanswered questions, what else might be hidden in the jungles, beneath the soil, or within the stones themselves? The mystery, it seems, is far from over. From the spiraling mandalas of Borobudur, where stone and sky merge in a cosmic ascent toward enlightenment, our journey now drifts southwest across the Indian Ocean. The jungles grow dense again, and the earth rises sharply. Here, in the heart of Sri Lanka, a colossal monolith pierces the surrounding plains, a sheer rock citadel rising nearly 200 meters above the forest canopy. Bathed in golden sunlight and crowned by ancient stone ruins, it is both a geological marvel and an architectural enigma. This is Sigiriya, the fabled Lion Rock. At dawn, mist coils around its base like a protective veil, while the summit glows in hues of copper and amber. From the ground, the fortress appears unassailable. Vertical walls of stone, towering ramparts, and a single, narrow ascent that winds upward through terraced gardens and mirrored pools. But for those who climb, each step reveals a different layer of ingenuity. Water channels still guide rain into reservoirs. Fountains, engineered over 1,500 years ago, still come alive during the monsoon. Even after centuries of abandonment, Sigiriya continues to function, as though the spirit of its builders never truly left. Mainstream history ties Sigiriya to King Kashyapa in the 5th century AD. According to ancient chronicles, the king sought refuge atop the rock after seizing the throne in a violent coup. There, he commissioned a palace in the clouds, a royal stronghold combining art, engineering, and symbolism. Terraced gardens stretched at the base. A massive lion-shaped gateway guarded the summit, and on the rock face, Kashyapa ordered frescoes, celestial maidens whose colors remain vivid to this day, protected by natural pigments and the rock's unique climate. But this explanation, while widely accepted, does not resolve all of Sigiriya's mysteries. The hydraulic system is the first to raise questions. Engineers carved underground conduits, pressure chambers, and channels so precisely that the fountains of the water gardens still operate using nothing but gravity and seasonal rain. How did 5th century builders master hydrological engineering of this scale, centuries before similar systems appear in parts of Europe? Some researchers believe the technology was part of a long local tradition. Others suspect knowledge shared along ancient maritime routes. And a smaller circle wonders if Sigiriya preserves engineering wisdom far older than Kashyapa's reign. Then there are the gardens themselves. Archaeologists regard them as some of the oldest, most sophisticated landscaped gardens in the world, an elegant blend of geometry, water flow, and natural terrain. Their alignment, symmetry, and function hint at mathematical principles that still puzzle scholars. Were these gardens merely royal displays of power and luxury? Or were they designed to embody cosmic order, an earthly reflection of celestial patterns? The frescoes add another layer of intrigue. Over 500 women may have originally adorned the rock face, though only a fraction survive. Each figure is painted with extraordinary realism and detail, unlike other Sri Lankan art from the same period. Who were these women? Goddesses? Courtiers? Priestesses? Or something else entirely? Their identities remain uncertain, their purpose layered in silence. And towering above all these mysteries are the colossal lion paws, carved at the final ascent. The gateway they once framed was not a simple entrance. It was a symbolic threshold, transforming the summit into a sacred or royal realm. But what stood there before Kashyapa? That question has fueled decades of debate. Some scholars argue that Sigiriya predates Kashyapa by many centuries, perhaps even a millennium, noting megalithic structures and earlier occupation layers at the site. In this view, the king may have merely repurposed a place already revered, its origins lost to time. Meanwhile, fringe theories go further, proposing that Sigiriya was once a celestial observatory, or even, according to the most speculative, a landing site for otherworldly visitors. These ideas remain unsupported by evidence, yet they persist, a reminder that the site inspires imagination as much as inquiry. Even mainstream archaeology treats Sigiriya as more than a fortress. It is an encoded landscape, part citadel, part palace, part symbolic mountain, one that still works, one that still channels water, one that still reveals art, one that still guards its secrets. So what, ultimately, was Sigiriya? A king's refuge? A ceremonial complex? A sacred mountain of an older faith? Or something that combines elements of all three? Standing atop Lion Rock, with the Sri Lankan plains stretching endlessly in every direction, The silence offers no answers, only questions, and the faint impression that the rock remembers more than it reveals. And if a fortress in the sky still functions after 1,500 years, what forgotten intentions, technologies, or beliefs might still be waiting within its stone heart, just beyond our reach? From the soaring heights of Segovia, where a fortress clings to the sky and water still courses through ancient channels, our journey drifts further east into the dense, humid jungles of Southeast Asia. Here, amid vast wetlands, tangled forests, and winding rivers, an architectural marvel emerges from the mist, a city temple of unparalleled scale and sophistication. Rising above the surrounding plains, reflecting in tranquil moats, and crowned by towers that mimic the peaks of sacred mountains, it is a monument both monumental and intimate, Angkor Wat. At sunrise, the complex glows in soft, golden light. Its walls shimmer with intricate bas-reliefs, narrating epic tales of gods, kings, and cosmic battles. The central towers, arranged like lotus buds, rise in perfect symmetry, their silhouettes mirrored in surrounding pools. From a distance, Angkor Wat seems almost to float, an island of stone and shadow suspended in a sea of greenery. Yet step closer, and the temple's ingenuity becomes undeniable. Waterways carved into the stone still function, regulating the flow of rain and preventing erosion. Pathways that guided devotees centuries ago remain intact, their design directing movement in harmony with spiritual and astronomical principles. Even after nearly 9 centuries, the temple continues to work exactly as its builders intended. Constructed in the early 12th century under King Sacsayhuamán II, Angkor Wat was originally dedicated to Vishnu, a deity representing preservation and cosmic order. Scholars have long marveled at its scale. Over 1,000 acres of terraces, galleries, and towers, connected by causeways and moats of engineering sophistication that remain effective to this day. Yet, even with modern technology, many details of its construction are difficult to explain. How did engineers and artisans transport, carve, and assemble tens of thousands of sandstone blocks weighing multiple tons, some sourced from quarries dozens of kilometers away? How did they ensure perfect alignment with cardinal directions, sunrises and solstices, and maintain structural stability over centuries in a tropical, flood-prone environment? The temple's architectural layout offers further mysteries. Some researchers suggest it was designed to mirror Mount Meru, the mythical center of the universe in Hindu cosmology. But others note that its proportions, water features, and axial alignments also correspond to celestial events and astronomical calculations, an intentional harmony between the heavens and the earth. Could Angkor Wat have functioned as both temple and observatory? Could it encode knowledge of the solar year, planetary cycles, or cosmic time within its walls, concealed in plain sight through its geometry and orientation? The bas-reliefs add layers of enigma. Stretching over thousands of meters, they depict battles, divine avatars, and mythological narratives. Yet the carvings also show unusual figures and symbols, some of which have no clear interpretation. Were they purely decorative? Or did they serve as mnemonic devices for rituals, ceremonies, or encoded teachings? And if these depictions were meant to convey esoteric knowledge, how much has been lost to time, swallowed by centuries of jungle growth, decay, and human neglect? Water management at Angkor Wat further provokes intrigue. The temple sits at the center of a massive hydraulic network, including reservoirs, channels, and moats, some stretching for kilometers. These systems were not merely practical. They were sophisticated, balancing flood control, irrigation, and religious symbolism. Even after centuries of neglect and jungle encroachment, the canals and moats still function, demonstrating resilience and precision that challenge modern engineers. How could medieval builders achieve such durability and accuracy when contemporary projects sometimes fail despite advanced tools and technology? More speculative theories expand the mystery. Some researchers argue that Angkor Wat's orientation and design reflect an understanding of geomancy or energy flows in ways we do not yet comprehend. Others suggest its construction may have been informed by ancient astronomical knowledge transmitted along long-distance trade networks across Asia. Fringe interpretations occasionally posit that the temple encodes hidden maps, celestial calendars, or even technological insights that have been lost to history. While evidence for these claims remains circumstantial, the questions persist, hovering over the stone causeways and silent towers. Yet perhaps the most striking truth is the simplest. Angkor Wat still functions. The causeways channel pilgrims' steps. The water flows as it has for centuries. The temple's alignment continues to mark solar events with astonishing accuracy. It is a living monument, bridging past and present, earth and sky, human ambition and divine inspiration. So we are left to wonder, was Angkor Wat merely the apex of Sacsayhuamán II's political and religious vision, a demonstration of wealth, power, and devotion? Or did its builders encode knowledge that transcended their era, astronomical, architectural, or spiritual? And if the temple continues to operate today, as it did 1,000 years ago, what other secrets remain hidden within its stone corridors, waiting to be discovered by those patient enough to observe, to calculate, and to truly wonder? From the vast temple plains of Angkor, where stone channels still guide water and sunrises illuminate sacred towers, our journey sweeps across the Pacific to the soaring Andes of South America. Here, high above the Urubamba River, clouds cling to jagged peaks and mist winds through steep valleys. Perched upon a ridge at nearly 2,400 meters above sea level, a city of stone emerges from the fog, both fragile and timeless. Machu Picchu. At first glance, it appears almost impossibly constructed. Terraces cascade down sheer slopes, their precision guiding rainwater and preventing landslides. Stairways and narrow paths carve the mountain itself into navigable corridors, as though the peak itself had been shaped to host this city. The stones, meticulously cut and fitted without mortar, interlock so perfectly that even a blade cannot slide between them. From the Intihuatana, the hitching post of the sun, to the Temple of the Sun, every structure seems designed not merely to stand, but to function, responding to the elements, the seasons, and perhaps the cosmos. Machu Picchu is traditionally attributed to the Inca emperor Pachacuti, who ruled in the 15th century A.D. It is thought to have served as a royal estate, a ceremonial center, or a retreat hidden high in the mountains. Yet its location, scale, and precision raise profound questions. How did the builders transport massive granite blocks, some weighing several tons, along steep, narrow mountain trails? How did they achieve the remarkable stability of terraces and structures in a region prone to earthquakes, heavy rainfall, and landslides, stability that persists centuries later? Water management at Machu Picchu continues to astonish modern engineers. An intricate network of aqueducts, channels, and drainage systems carries mountain water to plazas, fountains, and agricultural terraces. Rainfall is collected, redirected, and dispersed in ways that prevent erosion, flooding, and structural damage. Even today, these ancient systems operate seamlessly. Could it be that the Incas possessed knowledge of hydraulics and civil engineering far beyond what was previously assumed for their time and place? The architectural alignments hint at deeper mysteries. Many structures are oriented to mark solstices, equinoxes, and other astronomical events. The Intihuatana stone, carved to interact with the sun's position, may have functioned as both a ritual object and a precise solar calendar. Did these alignments serve purely ceremonial purposes, or were they part of a broader understanding of astronomy integrated into governance, agriculture, and spirituality? The answers remain tantalizingly elusive, hidden in shadows and light. Machu Picchu's terraces and agricultural systems add further intrigue. Some scholars suggest they were experimental plots, testing crops at various altitudes and soil conditions. Others propose that the terraces, in combination with water channels, created microclimates, another testament to advanced ecological understanding. How much of this knowledge was passed down through generations, and how much has been lost to time, buried beneath centuries of forest growth and the shifting Andes? The mountain itself seems to guard the city with almost supernatural precision. Massive stones fit together with extraordinary craftsmanship, yet there are no signs of cement or mortar. Some theorists suggest the Incas had techniques, now forgotten, that allowed them to shape and move stone with extraordinary accuracy. Others speculate that Machu Picchu was built upon an even older site, incorporating methods and knowledge inherited from civilizations predating the Inca. Could remnants of an earlier culture have influenced the city's design, materials, or spiritual significance? Beyond the technical marvels, there is the human story etched into every wall, terrace, and ceremonial space. Why was Machu Picchu abandoned so suddenly? How did it remain hidden from the outside world for centuries, only rediscovered in 1911? And if it was designed to function perfectly in harmony with its environment, what deeper insights into Inca cosmology, engineering, and philosophy have we yet to uncover? Standing amid the terraced slopes, with mist swirling around stone temples and stairways that vanish into clouds, one senses the genius and perhaps the mystery of its creators. The city still channels water, resists the mountain's gravity, and aligns with the sun as it did centuries ago. It is a monument that continues to work, not merely as a relic, but as a living testament to human ingenuity and understanding. And so, as we gaze over Machu Picchu's precipitous cliffs and quiet plazas, the questions remain. Was this a royal retreat, a ceremonial hub, an astronomical observatory, or all of these at once? And if the city continues to function in ways both practical and symbolic, what knowledge, what wisdom, and what secrets are still encoded in its stones, waiting for those patient enough to observe, to calculate, and to wonder? Here, perched between earth and sky, time itself seems to slow, and the Andes hold their breath, preserving the silent genius of a civilization that continues to speak through stone, water, and light. From the cloud-wrapped peaks of the Andes, where ancient stones still channel water and echo the ingenuity of civilizations long past, our journey shifts westward, across oceans and deserts, to a land steeped in millennia of faith, conflict, and wonder. In the heart of the historic city of Bethlehem, nestled along winding streets and ancient walls, stands a structure whose stones have witnessed centuries of devotion, upheaval, and human aspiration: the Church of the Nativity. At first sight, it may appear unassuming. Its limestone facade, weathered by time and countless pilgrims, conceals layers of history within. Entering the nave, one is immediately struck by the sense of continuity. The soft echo of footsteps along mosaic floors, the faint flicker of candlelight reflecting on vaulted ceilings, the interplay of shadow and stone in spaces that have been sacred for nearly 2,000 years. Beneath this venerable roof lies a grotto, modest in size yet monumental in significance, traditionally revered as the birthplace of one of history's most influential figures. Pilgrims and visitors alike are drawn into a quiet awe, sensing the weight of history and faith that saturates the air. The Church of the Nativity was commissioned by the Roman Emperor Constantine in the early 4th century AD, a tangible testament to the merging of imperial power and religious devotion. yet its very existence provokes enduring questions. Built atop an earlier site of worship, possibly a cave venerated for generations before Constantine's intervention, the church's origins hint at continuity that predates written records. How did builders integrate existing structures with new designs? How did they ensure stability, sanctity, and longevity in a region prone to earthquakes and centuries of human conflict? Remarkably, much of the original construction remains functional to this day, resisting both time and turmoil. The architecture itself embodies both ingenuity and enigma. Massive columns of local stone support arches and domes, while subterranean spaces allow natural ventilation and manage seasonal moisture. Some scholars note that the geometric precision, proportions, and orientation of the church may reflect more than aesthetic or functional considerations. Could these features encode symbolic, liturgical, or even astronomical knowledge, subtly connecting earth and sky, human ritual and divine observance? Such questions, while speculative, speak to the intelligence and intent of its builders. Beneath the church, the Grotto of the Nativity adds further intrigue. Here, beneath the main altar, a silver star marks the spot traditionally recognized as the birthplace. The stone floor has been worn smooth by centuries of pilgrims, yet the grotto's natural contours remain remarkably preserved. How did early architects and artisans harmonize artificial construction with a natural cave, ensuring both structural integrity and spiritual resonance? Some researchers propose that subterranean water channels or natural stone formations may have influenced the layout, subtly guiding the placement of columns, walls, and altars. Could there have been a conscious understanding of geology, hydrology, or acoustics that informed the church's enduring design? Artistic elements further enrich the mystery. Mosaics, frescoes, and iconography, though restored and replaced across centuries, often draw upon imagery whose origins are obscure or symbolic in ways that resist easy interpretation. Why were certain motifs chosen, and what knowledge or traditions might they encode? Are these merely expressions of faith, or could they reflect broader, perhaps forgotten systems of cultural memory, cosmology, or theology? The line between artistic intention and historical enigma is thin, yet palpable. Even the Church's survival through centuries of invasions, religious transformations, and natural hazards underscores its remarkable resilience. From Byzantine, Crusader, and Ottoman periods to modern political upheavals, the Church of the Nativity has remained a center of worship and pilgrimage, its functional aspects, structural, liturgical, and symbolic, intact. How could construction methods from nearly 2,000 years ago withstand such relentless pressures? What techniques, knowledge, or traditions ensured that its roof still shelters, its walls still stand, and its sacred spaces still convey meaning across generations? Beyond technical mastery, there is a profound human element. Countless pilgrims, from emperors to ordinary believers, have traced the steps of those who came before. Each generation contributed to the living structure. Repairs, additions, rituals, and reverence layered upon earlier stones. The church operates not merely as architecture, but as a vessel of continuous human engagement, a place where faith, memory, and craftsmanship intersect in ways both practical and transcendent. And yet, mysteries remain. Was the site chosen solely for its historical and religious associations? Or did the natural features of the grotto, its alignment, or surrounding terrain play a deliberate role in its sanctity? What knowledge of stone, water, symbolism, or cosmology guided the hands of those early builders, now lost to history? And if the church continues to function as both sacred space and architectural marvel, how many subtleties remain hidden, waiting to reveal themselves to the observant and patient? Standing within its walls, one senses the resonance of centuries, the hum of devotion, the precision of ancient construction, the interplay of natural and human design. the Church of the Nativity remains alive, functioning across time in ways both practical and spiritual. It invites us to reflect, to wonder, and to consider what other hidden truths might still dwell within its stone corridors, beneath its arches, and in the quiet depth of its sacred grotto. From the hallowed stones of the Church of the Nativity, where human devotion and architectural ingenuity have intertwined for nearly 2 millennia, we now journey eastward, across deserts and rivers to the arid plains of western India. Here, amidst the sun-scorched landscapes of Gujarat, rise vertical marvels of stone and shadow, the ancient stepwells or vavs, enigmatic structures that have channeled water, life, and culture for centuries. At first glance, a stepwell appears as a deep, descending mystery. From the surface, a modest entrance hints at a hidden world below. Yet, as one descends through narrow stairways, intricate landings, and successive terraces, the scale of human ingenuity becomes apparent. Stepwells are far more than utilitarian constructions. They are architectural symphonies of geometry, rhythm, and form. Each level, each column, each carved arch reveals meticulous planning designed to endure, to function, and to inspire. The deeper one descends, the cooler the air becomes, the echoes shift, and the interplay of light and shadow transforms the space into something almost otherworldly. Stepwells were primarily built to access and store groundwater in a region where the monsoon is seasonal and droughts frequent. Yet their design extends far beyond mere practicality. Water channels, storage reservoirs, and drainage systems intertwine with elaborately carved stone galleries. Some stepwells descend over 30 meters with multiple levels of steps that descend in precise alignment, allowing people to reach water even as its depth fluctuates with the seasons. How did builders achieve such precision, ensuring stability in soils prone to erosion and shifting monsoon patterns? How did they guarantee the longevity of structures that remain functional to this day, centuries after their construction? The artistry within stepwells raises further questions. Walls and columns are often adorned with geometric patterns, deities, and motifs drawn from local mythology. Some scholars suggest that the carvings served symbolic, ritualistic, or even cosmological purposes, encoding information about fertility, rainfall, or the cycles of nature. Could these ornamental details have also reflected technical knowledge, guiding water flow, supporting structural integrity, or indicating the passage of time and the rhythm of seasons? The intersection of practicality and mysticism invites deeper contemplation, blurring the line between functional engineering and cultural expression. Many of Gujarat's stepwells, such as the Rani Ki Vav at Patan, display an extraordinary fusion of scale and refinement. Columns, beams, and niches are carved with an almost impossible precision, and terraced levels descend in perfect proportion, creating both a visual spectacle and a practical marvel. Rani Ki Vav, built in the 11th century AD, has 7 distinct levels, each serving as a conduit for water, a gathering space, and a canvas for art. Could the builders have possessed sophisticated knowledge of hydrodynamics, soil mechanics, and geometry, allowing them to construct these subterranean structures with such accuracy? If so, how much of this knowledge has been lost, leaving us to marvel at what seems nearly miraculous today? The acoustic and environmental effects of stepwells are equally compelling. Descending into their depths, voices echo in ways that amplify communal gatherings and ritual recitations. Temperatures remain cool, providing relief from the harsh summer sun. Rainwater is directed and stored with careful calculation, feeding pools and channels while preventing erosion. Could it be that stepwells were conceived not only as practical water systems but as holistic environments, harmonizing human activity, nature, and the cosmos? Were these spaces meant to soothe the senses as much as they served the body, offering a refuge where architecture and environment converge? stepwells were also social and spiritual centers, hosting pilgrims, merchants, and local communities. Festivals and rituals often revolved around the descent into the water, connecting the physical act of gathering water with symbolic acts of purification and devotion. How did this integration of the practical, social, and sacred shape the evolution of these spaces? And how many of the subtleties of ancient engineering and cultural significance remain invisible to the casual observer, embedded silently in stone and shadow? The enduring functionality of these structures is perhaps their most astonishing feature. Despite centuries of exposure to the elements, earthquakes, and human activity, many stepwells continue to carry water, channel runoff, and provide cool, accessible spaces. Their ability to operate across generations speaks to a sophisticated understanding of environment, materials, and engineering, a knowledge that seems remarkably advanced for its time. Descending through these ancient stairways today, one senses the convergence of intellect, artistry, and necessity. Each step echoes with the footsteps of countless hands and feet that have traversed these levels, carrying water, prayers, and stories across centuries. Yet questions persist. How did these builders conceive of subterranean spaces with such complexity and precision? What knowledge, lost to history, allowed them to create structures that still function flawlessly? And if these stepwells continue to channel life in ways both visible and hidden, what secrets of engineering, culture, and human ingenuity remain waiting in the shadows, patiently preserved beneath the surface of Gujarat's sunlit plains? From the sunlit terraces and descending stairways of Gujarat's ancient stepwells, where water has been drawn and life sustained for centuries, our journey now takes us across vast plains and mountains to the imperial heart of China. Here, within the sprawling confines of Beijing, stands a marvel that combines spirituality, celestial observation, and architectural brilliance, the Temple of Heaven. Even today, this sacred complex continues to function, drawing the faithful, the curious, and those who marvel at the precision of ancient design. Approaching the Temple of Heaven, the first impression is one of deliberate symmetry and celestial order. At its center rises the Hall of Prayer for Good Harvests, an immense, circular wooden structure, perfectly proportioned, crowned with vibrant, blue-tiled roofs that seem to echo the color of the sky itself. The hall rests upon 3 levels of white marble terraces, ascending in geometric precision. From a distance, it is a harmonious composition, a vision that commands both reverence and curiosity. The space seems imbued with an almost palpable stillness, a sense that the heavens themselves are being mirrored in stone, wood, and tile. Constructed during the early 15th century, AD under the reign of the Yongle Emperor, the Temple of Heaven was conceived as the ultimate meeting place between heaven and earth. Emperors would ascend these terraces to offer prayers for bountiful harvests, conducting ceremonies with ritualistic exactness. Every element, from the circular layout symbolizing the heavens to the square terraces representing the earth, was designed with profound cosmological symbolism. Yet, even within this meticulous order, mysteries emerge. How did the architects, centuries before modern engineering, ensure that massive wooden columns could support the roof without nails, relying instead on an intricate system of interlocking brackets? How did they achieve such acoustic perfection that even whispered words at the center of the hall could carry across the marble terraces? The design of the Temple of Heaven continues to fascinate scholars and visitors alike. Its circular symmetry is not merely aesthetic. It appears to encode knowledge about astronomy, the movement of celestial bodies, and the cycles of the seasons. The layout aligns with cardinal directions with near-perfect accuracy, hinting at a sophisticated understanding of the Earth's geometry. Was this knowledge passed down through meticulous observation, sacred texts, or techniques now lost to time? Could the hall itself have functioned as an early observatory, translating the invisible rhythms of the cosmos into tangible architecture? Equally compelling is the role of sound and space within the temple. The echo wall, a circular perimeter surrounding the central plaza, carries whispers across great distances. Step carefully, speak softly, and your voice is magnified, bouncing around the curved wall in a way that seems almost supernatural. Is this an intentional design, a subtle instrument embedded in stone to enhance ritual, or a fortunate consequence of the geometry? And what does this reveal about the engineers and artisans whose awareness of physics and acoustics rivals that of modern practitioners? The Temple of Heaven also embodies a dynamic interaction with time and environment. Seasons dictate ceremonies. The alignment of the sun and moon dictates ritual timing. The structure has withstood centuries of wind, rain, and seismic tremors, a testament to its enduring design. Wood, stone, and marble have endured because of careful construction, yet one cannot help but wonder, did the builders anticipate the precise interplay of natural forces that would allow their work to survive so faithfully for hundreds of years? How many subtle calculations, hidden in the angles of terraces, the curvature of tiles, the weight distribution of beams, remain invisible to the casual observer? Beyond its engineering, the Temple of Heaven serves as a living testament to human aspiration. Emperors, scholars, and priests once ascended these terraces with the weight of empire and the hope of divine favor. Today, visitors, pilgrims, and historians continue to engage with this space, bridging centuries of devotion, observation, and awe. The interplay of human intention and natural forces persists, rendering the temple not a relic, but a functioning, breathing monument, one that continues to inspire wonder and reflection. As we walk along its marble terraces and peer upward at the meticulously tiled roofs that seem to touch the sky, the Temple of Heaven invites us to ask questions as old as civilization itself. How did ancient builders conceive of a structure that so elegantly merges spirituality, astronomy, and engineering? How much knowledge of the natural world was encoded in rituals, geometry, and material choices? And as the winds sweep across the terraces, carrying echoes of voices past, one cannot help but wonder what other secrets remain hidden in the alignment of columns, the curvature of terraces, and the very foundations of this extraordinary space, waiting silently to reveal themselves to those who seek, as we do, the enduring mysteries of human ingenuity.